Good morning, and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing from the Committee on Technology. At this point, I'd like to remind everyone to please silence their electronic devices, and at no point going forward is anyone to approach the dais or the witness table unless invited to testify. If you would like to sign up to testify and have not done so already, you can do so by filling out a slip in the back of the room at the table with Sergeant Arms. And if you have any other concerns during the hearing, please let one of the Sergeant Arms know, and we will address your concerns. Chair, we're ready to begin.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome. I'm Councilmember Jennifer Gutierrez, Chair of the Committee on Technology. Thank you all for joining us today's oversight hearing on the city's broadband strategy. When I asked to chair this committee before I was even sworn in, people were surprised because my background is not in tech. It is in housing, it is in organizing, it is in immigration, but not tech. And during the pandemic, District 34, like so many communities, were cut off. Families without broadband couldn't access school, jobs, or basic services. The digital divide wasn't just real, it was violent in its consequences. So I just want to be very clear that we are not here to question OTI's commitment to digital equity. I believe that you all have staff and there are public servants working hard to close that gap. But this hearing is about accountability, because after years of promises, we still don't have a long-term plan. My team reviewed every transcript from every single hearing since I've become chair in 2022. This committee was promised over 10 times that a comprehensive strategy would be shared, some with timelines under a year. It's 2025 and we are still waiting. Meanwhile, the Internet Master Plan was shelved without public explanation, a plan developed with dozens of partners, praised globally, and designed to build long-term infrastructure and affordability. In its place, we've seen no roadmap, little transparency, and $40 million a year going to two major cable companies. I'm not knocking 330,000 people getting free internet, but that is a short-term, expensive solution, and we have to walk and chew gum at the same time. I believe we can do both. This committee wants to know what has been built, what is planned, and what is the city doing to connect all New Yorkers, not just public housing residents, but the millions of people still left behind. How are we innovating service delivery? We're also considering a legislative package that includes intros 481, 483, 486, which expands support for community broadband access, intro 878, which increases transparency in cable franchise agreements, and as well as two of my own bills, intro 198, which improves reporting on discounted internet programs, and intro 1122, resurrecting the Internet Master Plan, which would require the city to develop a real long-term broadband plan, much like the Internet Master Plan. I want to thank the Tech Committee staff, Policy Analyst Eric Brown, Legislative Counsel Irene Bayowski, and my Chief of Staff Anya Lair, Legislative Associate Victoria Peters, and our Legislative Fellow Josemary Ochoa Cruz for their work to prepare for today's hearing. I want to recognize members of the Technology Committee who have joined us today, Councilmember Bob Holden, and I'm sure more will be trickling in. And we're going to pass it over to Councilmember Bob Holden, who has a statement.
Thank you, Chair Gutierrez, and for the opportunity to hear Intro 898, a bill to increase transparency and provide the public with easier access to information about broadband service and cable franchise agreements in New York City. This legislation would create a user-friendly portal featuring a navigable map updated annually that outlines where broadband services are available and what obligations franchisees have to the city and its residents. Constituents deserve to know which companies are operating in their neighborhoods, what services they should receive, and what commitments those companies have made. Just so we don't have all the advertising of these companies to say this is what we offer, and then they don't. And we've seen that a lot. So during my time as chair of the Council's Committee on Technology, broadband access and franchise compliance were issues that came up often. This bill is a simple but important step toward making this information clearer and more accessible to the public. I look forward to hearing from the administration on this bill and working together to move it forward. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to make a statement. Thank you.
Of course. course. Today, thank you, Councilmember Holden. Today we'll hear testimonies from the Office of Technology and Innovation, followed by testimonies from the public. Now I want to welcome Brett Sykoff, Executive Director, Franchise Administration and Broadband, Samantha Wright, Associate Commissioner of External Partnerships, and Chantel Sinatis, I've said it so many times, Deputy Commissioner, Legal Matters. And I'll pass it to Irene.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I kindly ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth and answer honestly to councilmember questions?
I do.
Thank you. You may begin your testimony.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Gutierrez and members of the City Council Committee on Technology. My name is Brett Sykoff, and I am the Executive Director of Broadband and Franchise Administration for the Office of Technology and Innovation, or OTI. With me is Samantha Wright, OTI's Associate Commissioner for External Partnerships, and Chantal Senitis, OTI's Deputy Commissioner for Legal Matters. We're pleased to discuss our recent efforts and future plans related to broadband and digital equity with the committee today. Under the leadership of Chief Technology Officer Matthew Frazier, OTI has spearheaded numerous programs and initiatives focused on accomplishing Mayor Adams' vision of bridging the digital divide. Internet access is essential to fully participate in our modern digital society, and we consider it akin to a modern utility like heat or hot water. Prior to this administration, 30 to 40% of public housing residents lack this basic modern necessity, an injustice that caused real harm to our older adults, students, families, and job seekers during the pandemic. Today, thanks to the leadership of Mayor Adams and CTO Frazier, New York City provides more residents with free high-speed internet than any other city in the nation. We also supply equitable access to devices, digital skills training, and support programs to ensure New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs are equipped to use the internet. Recognizing the urgent need for broadband access in public housing, we launched Big Apple Connect in the first year of this administration. Big Apple Connect, the nation's largest municipal subsidized broadband program, provides free in-home broadband and basic cable to access to over 330,000 New Yorkers in 220 NYCHA sites. The program's popularity is demonstrated by its 80% citywide adoption rate, and we continue efforts to increase adoption. Last week, we sent a survey to thousands of NYCHA households enrolled in Big Apple Connect to assess the quality of services being provided and to better understand the ongoing digital needs of residents. Since the Federal Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP, ended in 2024, the city's provision of these essential services to NYCHA residents has taken on an even greater significance, and we are committed to a baseline in the OTI budget. We're extremely proud of the Big Apple Connect success, but it is important to note that it is just one piece of our digital equity efforts. Last month, we released the New York City Digital Equity Roadmap with a $2.4 million investment designed to enhance free internet access and the skills and support to use it. The roadmap, which is the product of extensive interagency collaboration, focuses on meeting the immediate needs of New Yorkers while also laying the foundation for future success. We're making this initial investment to upgrade technology in older adult centers, libraries, and the NYCHA Digital Van program. This month, we held our first convening of a digital equity working group that will build upon existing city government partnerships, and we will be hiring a chief digital equity officer to lead this important work. Given the recent enactment of the New York State Affordable Broadband Act, which requires internet service providers to offer a low-cost broadband option to eligible households, we have also been in close coordination with the Connect All team and plan to collaborate on efforts to amplify the availability of these services. As mentioned in the roadmap, we recently released a request for information to further explore how expanding the use of public infrastructure can improve digital equity outcomes. We look forward to hearing from a wide range of stakeholders, including elected officials, before the May 30 response deadline. The RFI seeks to build on our current franchise portfolio, comprised of non-exclusive agreements with dozens of companies that provide services such as cable television, public communication structures, mobile telecommunications, and information services. It is important to note that although the cable television franchisees, Charter, Altice, and Verizon, also provide broadband services, The franchise agreements are limited to the provision of cable television, subject to applicable federal law. The Adams administration is committed to keeping New Yorkers connected wherever they live, work, and travel across the 5 boroughs. As part of our broadband offerings, Link NYC operates about 2,200 kiosks, including Original Links and the newer Link 5G smart poles that reach over 18 million subscribers. These kiosks provide free Wi-Fi, nationwide calling, device charging, and quick access to 911 and government services. 90% of Link 5Gs, which are built to provide the added benefit of multi-tenant 5G service, will be located outside of Manhattan's Central Business District. We continue to work with the franchisee CityBridge to expand the Link 5G network across the city. In addition to Link 5G, my team administers mobile telecommunications franchises. These franchises allow companies to install 4G and 5G equipment on light poles and utility poles. Through this franchise, mobile carriers enhance and densify their cellular networks, providing crucial service to anyone who owns a cell phone. More recently, we provided incentives for these companies to build their equipment in historically underserved areas of the city, ensuring that mobile coverage is equitable. Finally, information services franchises are held by companies that install and operate fiber optic cable in city streets for the purpose of offering voice, data, and/or business-to-business internet service across the 5 boroughs. In the past year, the city has entered into 13 of these franchises, and we continue to consider qualified companies on a rolling basis. Now, I'll turn to the legislation considered today. Chair Gutierrez's bill, Intro 198, would require OTI to report on discounted internet service program utilization rates and report to the council about outreach efforts related to such programs. Currently, we do provide information through our website on eligibility for Big Apple Connect, and we intend to post a dashboard that shows the utilization rates of all eligible households citywide. As mentioned, Big Apple Connect is directly administered by Altice and Charter, and they have dedicated resources to outreach since the program launched. We can work with these companies to detail such efforts on the Big Apple Connect webpage. Intro 481, sponsored by Councilmember Juan, would require OTI to disseminate information on affordable internet programs and community-based internet services to community-based organizations, or CBOs. As written, it is unclear what the intended reach is for this dissemination, which makes it challenging for OTI to assess the resources required for such efforts. Further, while we are working to amplify information on statewide programs like the discounts provided through the Affordable Broadband Act, it is more challenging to catalog community-based internet services and target the appropriate geographic areas where such networks may be available. We'd like to discuss with the council how we may address existing gaps. Councilmember Juan's bill, Intro 483, would require OTI to establish a program whereby city agencies provide wireless network access for the public to utilize the internet. We appreciate the spirit of this proposal, but we are unclear whether the proposal intends to provide service to agencies' walk-in customers or to the general public. Further, an agency's capability to provide this service is highly dependent on numerous factors and may require significant infrastructure investments and different network requirements depending on the intended constituency. We'd like to discuss further what the sponsor envisions with this bill, considering the operational and fiscal implications as currently written. Intro 486, also sponsored by Councilmember Juan, would require OTI to provide written materials about affordable internet for wide-ranging outreach to students and families. We appreciate the council's focus on educating students and their families about the low or no-cost broadband services available to them. In the past, we have collaborated with the Public Engagement Unit and the New York City schools to promote affordable connectivity program, which is unfortunately no longer available. Given the enactment of the Affordable Broadband Act, we are already working towards a day of action at the beginning of the school year. New York City Public Schools has advised that they can share provided information on affordable broadband by posting on their family-facing website, actively notifying students and families via enterprise digital communication tools, as well as making hard copies available. We can further discuss with New York City Public Schools and the council additional strategies to better get the word out about current offerings. Intro 878, sponsored by Councilmember Holden, would require OTI to post information on our website related to the cable franchise agreements. Our website contains wide-ranging information about all our franchises, including cable franchises, that is easily accessible to the general public. We welcome any feedback on how it may be improved. Finally, Intro 1122, sponsored by Chair Gutierrez, would require OTI to publish a plan to make universal, affordable, and equitable internet available in homes throughout the city. The plan would be required to be published every 5 years along with an annual progress report. This bill also establishes an advisory board that would review OTI's plans and make recommendations. It is laudable for the council to advocate for a future-proof broadband plan that envisions access for all. We agree that it is important for all New Yorkers to have access to affordable in-home broadband, and we are aligned on the importance of setting goals to increase that access. However, we have concerns that the legislation as written does not align with our current work and future planning, could result in the duplication of efforts, and assumes future funding streams that may not materialize. As we have laid out above, OTI has several ongoing and planned efforts with respect to broadband and digital equity. The Digital Equity Roadmap underscores many of those efforts and lays out the groundwork for both short and long-term goals. As written, Intro 1122 does touch on many of the items we are currently working to address, including digital inclusion efforts and the incentivization for multi-tenant structures. Other areas the legislation seeks to address, including creating opportunities for nonprofit and MWB ISPs and expanding Wi-Fi availability within city buildings, come with unknown budget implications. We're interested in discussing the ways we may better align on other aspects of the legislation that the council feels have not been addressed by our recently proposed plans. Finally, we are aware that the aim of this bill has been described as resurrecting the Internet Master Plan. That plan featured data representing an outdated snapshot of the state of broadband access in New York City in early 2020, a lifetime ago in our post-pandemic world. After the Adams administration took office and Mayor Adams created OTI, we evaluated how we could provide the best service to the largest amount of people as quickly as possible, not 5 or 10 years down the road. This led to the creation of Big Apple Connect. Our change in course from the Internet Master Plan to Big Apple Connect has proven to be both less expensive and a more effective way to deliver high-speed broadband service to New Yorkers. We believe a pivot back to the Internet Master Plan, as it has been proposed over 5 years ago, would hinder the progress we've made over the past 3 years, cost taxpayers more money, and could harm residents of communities on the wrong side of the digital divide. That said, it is worth emphasizing that there are many opportunities for us to work towards our shared goals without holding the prior administration's plan on a pedestal. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify today. We will now be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. I wanted to begin my questions today with just kind of level setting a little bit and just ask some foundational questions. And so I hope you can answer because they are data-driven questions. The first one is, can you share how many households in New York City are without any broadband or cellular access?
So based on current data, I mean, we in our broadband and our digital equity roadmap, we tried to set out what the universe is of broadband accessibility in New York City. As of today, there is virtually entire coverage of broadband in New York City. So there's no residence where you cannot get broadband service in your home. So there's a question of access versus adoption, right? Access, there's virtually 100% connectivity available to residents across the city, save for some areas that may be, like cemeteries and around the airports where there's no residential buildings. In terms of adoption, based on recent figures, it's estimated that there are roughly about 10% of people that don't have the combination of home broadband and mobile service, so either one of those two things. But clearly, when the administration took office, there was this particular constituency, public housing residents, that had very clearly, based on census data, 30 to 40% of New York City public housing residents did not have home broadband. So that is why the Big Apple Connect program was a huge victory for not just public housing residents, but for the city as a whole to be able to deliver those services to the people most in need.
I'm sorry. You're saying every single household has access?
Correct.
Right. How many household has internet connectivity at home and how many of them, although it exists because they have the access to it, do you have the data that says how many households have active internet at home outside of Big Apple Connect and how many have cellular, have phones
So
that they can access their internet
I don't
from?
have that particular data in front of me, but what I would say is that the whole reason to your question, whether it's home broadband or mobile broadband, some people just prefer to use their cell phone as either their primary or only means of connecting to the internet, which is why it's part of our larger holistic strategy to ensure that folks have broadband in the home, but if not, we want to improve cellular communications throughout the city through our Link 5G program, mobile telecommunications, information services, all the other programs and franchises that we offer.
So you don't have that information?
I don't have that specific information.
Okay.
We can get that for you.
Okay, and then at the time of the Internet Master Plan being released, in their plan, this is, of course, 5 years ago, nearly 29% of New Yorkers lacked broadband at home. Do you know what that number is today, and do you see a trend line over time?
So I don't have that number. We can get that for you based on current census data. But we've seen improvements. Clearly, it made a huge dent by initiating the Big Apple Connect program. So getting 330,000 New Yorkers connectivity for free
Yes.
has made
You're
a
going to keep talking
significant-
about Big Apple Connect. I get it. And we've had those hearings, and the commissioner has touted it, and I've applauded it and given him my flowers. I would love for the responses to include more than the Big Apple Connect, because that's not what this hearing topic is. Can I ask, when will the city, has the city, is it on a dashboard, and excuse me if I haven't seen it, have you all updated a broadband map at this point?
So we have a public asset map, which includes information on how people can sorry to mention, but Big Apple Connect, the locations, Link 5Gs, where public computer centers are, access to that. But in terms of a broadband map, please.
Just to share, you said that technically every New Yorker at this point has access to broadband. Just the visualization of understanding the technicalities of, yes, broadband access is everywhere, cellular access is everywhere, but the connectivity of household to household, is there a map that exists? Or are you all using the New York State broadband map going forward?
So we've certainly looked at the Connect All maps and the information that they've provided. We looked at census data, but I don't know that we have that particular information in terms of broadband adoption and the percentage and the geographic locations of those.
So, and I'm sorry if you said it, so there is no map currently for New York City?
For broadband adoption, I'd have to double check to see if there is an updated number based on current data or if we're utilizing now 5-year-old information.
Okay, so back in 2022, Finance Chair Brennan had asked for a map of all infrastructure in the city and included streets, blocks. He wanted specifics about what might not be covered, and I believe the commissioner said that one exists and that he would provide one. So that's the map that I'm referring to.
Of areas that have internet access.
Yeah, I think just very plainly, just being able to see where there's access, where there isn't, where people are connected. And I think for you all, as you all obviously have been working through the digital roadmap, I'm assuming you would have that, right? Just to kind of see where areas of targeted outreach, so that is an ask from a little while back ago, so that's what I'm referring to. So do you have one, or do you not have one? Is it internal?
Let's get back to your staff as to what we have and what we could provide.
Okay, now, I do want to ask some questions on Big Apple Connect, but just a few, okay? Because we did have that hearing a couple years ago, and obviously this was when it was first announced. My first question is related to the RFP process and procurement. So in September 22, you testified that OTI had received proposals under Big Apple Connect through an RFP, and shared that there would be follow-up on whether bulk purchasing options were included. We have repeatedly asked for that RFP, and then obviously since the rollout of the plan, has an RFP been provided to this committee, to your knowledge?
I don't know exactly what was provided to the committee, but what I can tell you is there wasn't what we would consider an RFP in parlance of franchises. Like an RFP would go out broadly to interested parties generally for a non-exclusive franchise, for some sort of service that they could provide. In this case, it was more like a mini bid that was sent out to parties, to entities that can provide the services that were being requested. In this case, it was going to be broadband, basic cable TV, and some other requirements related to it.
But it is referred to as an RFP, or is it?
I would ask Deputy Commissioner.
So the question is, because in September 22, the day of the hearing, I think was the same day that the announcement was made about Big Apple Connect. And so it was surprising to us at the council, it was surprising to me as chair of this committee. And so we had asked for, how did you decide on these two providers? And I think, you said, we wanted these four services. But what you also shared, Brett, is that you would share kind of what that RFP looked like. To my knowledge, it has not been shared with the committee. And so that is the question. If it exists, and when can we have it?
It certainly exists, and I believe we did share this several years ago, so we can double check and confirm, but I believe we did share it with the committee.
Okay. But it exists.
It definitely does.
And then you just said because it was not an RFP that was made public at the time, or can you just give me a little bit of that, what you just shared? Just, Chantal, come on.
Good morning.
Good morning. What do you got for me?
So the way our telecom enterprise agreements are framed, when that original RFP went out, we essentially wanted the ability to have multiple providers who have contracts with the city so that we can create competition there and minimize the cost to the city. So there's a mechanism where essentially we create a mini bid between our existing vendors who have those telecom enterprise agreements, and essentially that is the competition that is laid out, and that's where the requests for proposals are issued in that context.
And did you all, besides Altice and Spectrum, because those are the two that are designated, can you share, I don't need the names, but how many other providers participated or submitted this request for proposals?
I think we only have one other provider that has a telecom enterprise agreement, and that's Verizon. I'm happy to share that.
It was only one other one.
Verizon.
And so I guess would you define it as an open RFP process then?
I wouldn't describe it as an open RFP process. It's really more of a mini bid between existing contractors.
Has OTI put out an existing mini bid in other instances?
There are processes that encourage mini bids, like say, for instance, when you have minority and women-owned businesses, and we have new provisions that MOX put out a couple of years ago that essentially allow us to procure directly with MWBEs. We also engage in a mini bid there, like to the extent that there are multiple MWBEs that perform the same sort of work, we essentially send out like mini solicitations to them all.
Okay. Was there an RFP process for Big Apple Connect?
It would be the mini bid process also within that context.
Okay, so that's another example of a mini bid process. Is there any public record of the responses from those providers?
I'd have to, I'm
From
assuming
Charter,
that-
Altice?
Yeah, we'd have to take a look and see what we actually have in-house. I wasn't part of that particular process at the time, so we'd have to kind of get back to you and see what we have in the office.
Okay, but you're not sure, so you're not sure if it was made public. Do you know if it can be made public now?
I'll have to look into that. And we're more than happy to get back to your staff with respect to that.
Say the last part.
We're more than happy to get back to your
okay.
staff
Thank
with
you so
respect to that
much.
response.
So on the contract, the Big Apple Connect contract, we've also, as a committee, we've asked several times for a copy of that contract. I don't believe we've been provided it. We are now independently in possession of the contracts for both companies for Big Apple Connect. Why was it not provided to this committee, and why is it not publicly available?
It was my understanding that your last request for that came in yesterday. It's my understanding that they're public
For
documents.
the Big
but-
Apple Connect contract? No.
No, that's the last time I heard of a request, but
Oh, no.
it's my understanding that.
I'm
we
pretty
did-
sure I asked for it at that 2022 hearing because it was news to me.
We must have, I feel that we've provided this in the past, but we can take a look.
Do you know if we have it? No, we don't have it. Okay. Okay, why did OTI do this through a master services agreement?
Because, I mean, you want to answer this one, Brett?
Well, essentially, we were purchasing bulk services for city-owned property, which falls under, exactly why the telecom enterprise agreement was designed, so we can get the best pricing, use the city's purchasing power to provide, services to the public at the lowest price,
Okay.
lowest cost.
Did OTI have to obtain any additional EOs or approvals from the mayor's office to execute this contract?
Not to my understanding.
Was there, and since I don't have the contract in front of me, was there a clause in the agreement with Altice and Charter that offers any exclusive rights to the building infrastructure or marketing?
Not to my understanding. It was intended to provide core services of the basic cable and high-speed internet, with the expectation that the infrastructure was already in place and that the other providers can provide services. There's no exclusive arrangement specified in the contract or in practice. That was not the intent, and that's not how it was rolled out.
Okay. Are there developments where there are other providers outside of that designated one for the Big Apple Connect program?
Yeah, so to be clear, none of the developments of the 220 that are part of Big Apple Connect, it's an opt-in service. So
Right.
a resident can enroll in Big Apple Connect, they could choose not to, they could take another provider, they can have no service at all. So there's no limit, there's no exclusivity related to the program.
They don't have to go, they don't even have to take advantage of the program?
Totally, yeah.
Okay. Do you have the percentage of how many Big Apple Connect subscribers were not set up with internet previously?
So based on estimates, we were looking at, I mentioned earlier, 30 to 40% of NYCHA residents did not have any home broadband service.
30 to 40.
30 to 40%, yeah.
And then, do you all know how many of them did not have, I guess, cable?
I don't know. I don't know. Largely, just from anecdotally, people generally get their cable and internet as like a bundle, a package from the provider. So we don't know what the breakout is. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know if we have data on that in terms of specific cable connections. We obviously do, as part of our administration of the cable franchise, we know overall how many cable subscribers there are around the city, but not necessarily pinpointed by geographically.
I see. And so you don't have it, or you didn't have the data of how many people of how many residents or units, excuse me, it's by unit, had cable. Just curious if you can share, I guess, why. What is the agreement that makes it so that cable had to be an anchor for this program for residents?
I think it was driven largely by the fact that the cable providers had the infrastructure in place for decades. They had their either fiber or coax or a combination of the two already in place to deliver cable services. And obviously, internet has come along since then. So to be able to leverage the cable infrastructure plant that's already in place to every NYCHA property, and to be able to tack on, obviously, the internet was the major draw to utilizing the cable
They had the
providers.
infrastructure already. So I'm just curious then, I guess, what was the inception of the RFP? Was it always to provide internet and cable, or was it the infrastructure is there, they're already providing cable, so let's make it so that the only providers that could respond to this RFP are the ones that are already in there providing cable?
Well, ultimately, the goal, as we mentioned, not to rehash it, but was to get people connected immediately. When this administration came on, we did not, setting aside the IMP plans, we did not want to wait. We did not want our residents to wait any longer to be able to get connectivity. So we did see, looked around and say, where's the infrastructure in place and who's providing that infrastructure, who's built it? Cable companies All the NYCHA residents have them, NYCHA developments have them, and we were able to leverage that infrastructure in combination with the fact that the three cable providers, Altice, Spectrum, and Verizon, are all signed up on the Master Services Agreement. So we're able to leverage the Master Services Agreement, existing infrastructure, and that's how we're able to get people connected so quickly.
All three that applied are under the mesh.
Yes, the Master Services, yes.
My questions are just because I think this process that you're sharing, while yes, I get the intent was like to get people connected as quickly as possible, I think it limited competition among some of the ISPs that probably could do it. Many of who were, starting that process already from the Internet Master Plan and were booted. It limited who the city could work with. And so that's why I'm asking what came first. Was it these internet providers saying like, we've got dwindling numbers, we've got the cable infrastructure, we'd love to also provide internet, versus you all having a process that's, I think, more open, more public, more competitive, and provided an opportunity to these internet service providers, many of who some of these NYCHA tenants were already working with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and factored into the analysis about pivoting away from the Internet Master Plan to Big Apple was the fact that to your point, Chair, a number of the smaller internet service providers were providing service to NYCHA residents under like a pilot of sorts, and what was termed the RFEI to the Internet Master Plan. And while we have tremendous relationships with these companies and we support them as much as we can and we encourage their participation in the marketplace, frankly, they didn't make a huge dent in terms of getting customers, getting folks living in NYCHA to sign up for their service, which was entirely free thanks to ACP at the time. While ACP was in place, these smaller providers were able to sell their services, and it really didn't move the needle on new broadband connections. That's not to say they didn't do great work, and we encouraged their participation, not just in NYCHA, but throughout the city. But it ultimately didn't, some people just didn't want to go with the unknown guys.
But prior to that, thank you, and prior to that, they were not contracting with the city, right, these smaller providers? So
they received a permit from NYCHA to be able to occupy the space in NYCHA to run their facilities through the buildings. They didn't have a permit with OTI, I can tell you that. But they did have a permit to occupy the space to be able to provide the service and to market their services to the public. So they did, and as I mentioned, the numbers just were not impressive. Had they perhaps, and this is speculation that I probably shouldn't even say, but perhaps if their numbers were greater, higher percentage of adoption, that may have factored in future decisions that we had made. But the fact remains that folks just did not embrace the smaller companies at the time.
But they also didn't. I mean, I think what Altice and Charter are getting, or what it's costing us, is significantly larger than what any of these ISPs had. Because they were not contracted yet, right? Because they were in negotiation. So I think it's not the same amount of resources, obviously, for the two providers in Big Apple Connect.
I wouldn't exactly say that, because they were the smaller providers. Again, I say the smaller providers were building out on their own dime with the expectation that the Internet Master Plan would come to fruition, and that there would be a city investment at a large scale, as you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, even in the billions, to complete that deployment. So there was an expectation that the city would invest it. So it wasn't like private investment versus city paying for Big Apple Connect. There was always an expectation that the city would be fronting a considerable cost of their deployment.
But they were not able to access any of that city funding.
No, they were not.
Okay.
Correct.
And how quickly were Spectrum and Altice able to access the city funding?
Well, again, mind you, it's just for services. The infrastructure was in place. We didn't have to pay for construction, which is a significant cost and one that the smaller ISPs would have had to incur. So it's strictly for services. So as they were able to get customers online, we were able to pay per unit, a very low per unit rate for services that they provide under the Big Apple Connect contract.
Okay. I know that there is still a small portion of, correct me, you said 80% of NYCHA residents are connected?
It's a Big Apple, yes.
Big Apple, okay. Is there any plan to, and I've asked the commissioner this before, I was like, what is the reason? And, it ranges, but as to like why people aren't connected, is there any update? How are you all engaging with the remaining 20% to ensure that they are connected, or just maybe they are connected to the internet already and just not with Big Apple Connect?
Yeah,
but
no,
what
it's a
is
good-
that data?
I'm sorry, it's a great question, one that we deliberate over internally to try to figure out how we can get to that, get to as close to 100% as possible. Largely, the outreach efforts are the responsibility of the providers, right? They're doing door knocking, they're sending out
Yeah, I've seen them
flyers,
out.
their mailers. We do work with them and NYCHA to set up on-site sign-up events where we set up a tent and tables and computers and have the representatives of
Yeah, they've
of
been
both
out at
companies
family
there. We go to
days, et
family day
cetera.
events. Yep, I've been to dozens of them. So it's certainly helped. Anecdotally, from me speaking with the residents, so I could tell you, a lot of them just like their existing provider. Some of them are older adults who, for whatever their personal reason, they don't want internet at home. Which is why we've seen a relatively slow trickle of new subscribers over the last few months. That said, 80% is pretty impressive when compared to these types of programs that we see. Or
What was it, and I'm sorry if you said this already, what was it before?
It was probably in the 50-60 range. 50,
Okay,
or
okay.
maybe even lower based on some numbers.
Sure. And of that 20%, do you all have a sense of how many are actually connected versus like those who are not?
We don't. It's hard to get that data because, again, we don't regulate internet service in the city. We can't. So we don't have that level of specificity. But it just, again, given my personal anecdotes from speaking to folks, it's a large part of that 20% have service through another provider. So I'm
Okay.
relatively happy to know that they are getting it. We encourage them to take advantage of the city program,
Right.
but that's ultimately
So they're
their
not
choice.
connected, it's just they have
Correct.
their provider. I also want to recognize Councilmember Palladino, who's joined us virtually. I wanted to just quickly, I'll jump back into Big Apple, I'll jump back into these questions, but I know in your testimony you shared that, I believe last week, surveys were sent to residents about Big Apple Connect. Can you share, what are some of the things that you're asking, what are you looking to accomplish?
Yep, it's
from the
a
survey?
short and sweet survey. We first want to confirm that they are receiving it, a kind of audit, if you will, to make sure that the folks who we're paying for to get the service are actually getting it. But then we want to know, how they're using the internet. What kind of activities are they doing? Using it for homework, job searches, telemed, those types of things. We ask what kind of devices they have at home. We want to understand if they're using a laptop, tablet, home, just a cellular phone for their primary means of connecting to the internet. So it's a 5-question survey. We just
Okay.
sent it out a week ago, so we hope to get some insight. We'll also be following it up with in-person surveys as soon as the weather, which is now cooperating. We'll be setting up more sign-up events and also surveying residents.
How are people getting the survey? Is it digitally?
We did a mail survey. We sent it out via U.S. mail.
Oh, really?
They're going to get a pretty
I feel
postcard.
like there's a
with
missed opportunity there.
Well, we discussed this one, whether it should be digital, virtual, like
Or
through a
both,
QR
yeah.
code. We thought about that, and based on some research of how surveys are generally responded to, we thought that the mailer would yield the best results. So we gave a lot of thought to it, for sure.
Okay. Okay. And when are you looking to conclude the collection portion?
So we were encouraging responses by mid-May. We even have a drawing for a gift card raffle drawing for folks to respond. So we'll be doing that to incentivize them to respond. But there's really no firm end date. We anticipate throughout the course of the rest of the spring and the summer we'll be doing in-person surveys. Probably by mid to late summer we'll be able to do a full-scale analysis once we get everything.
Mid to late September? You said?
Summer. mid to
Summer,
late
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Okay. I have a hard time hearing in here. Okay, wonderful. Can I ask, do you have data for how many, in Big Apple Connect, of the people subscribe, how many people are paying for additional services, or to your knowledge, it's,
So we don't have data on that.
you don't have data?
We just anecdotally from speaking to residents, many of them take advantage of the free offerings, which severely, significantly reduce their cable bill. So they do take part in, the premium services, premium channels, and things like that. But that we don't have insight.
Okay. Are you not, is it not I guess I'm just wondering, like, why does the data exist? Because the data does not exist because you don't have it, or you're not necessarily asking the providers to share that information with
Yeah,
you
that's
all?
not information that they would normally share, and we did not ask them to share that as part of this program.
Okay. I feel like it's, I don't know, I feel like it's important, considering that it's two of like the larger providers, for them to share with you all, with the city, kind of how this specific contract is also benefiting them outside of the contract. I don't know what the packages are. I don't subscribe to either internet service provider, but I don't know. I would feel like it's important for the city to have a good sense of how this program is also leading to, like, you know, just more revenue for these providers outside of the scope of what you're asking them, right? Like upselling a resident. You don't have the data, but I just feel like it's an important ask to make of that provider.
Yeah, I mean, we could take a look at that to see if that's useful or relevant in terms of analyzing the impact that the program is having both on the public and for the providers. What I would say is ultimately it's the customer's choice, right? If they're subscribing to HBO, if they're the provider, that's their choice. They're not being forced to take it, forced to pay for it. So it's
Right. I know 100%. I think the I'm not trying to say that it's like a misuse, but like Spectrum, for example, the fact that they're in NYCHA providing this service where maybe they weren't before is because of the contract, because of Big Apple Connect. It's a pathway that the city has provided for them. And in the instance where they're upselling to tenants, I think that is an opportunity that doesn't exist for any other provider in that instance. And so I think it's important to capture that information. It's something that it's a pathway a business pathway that we're creating for that didn't exist before and that we're not providing to anybody else.
Yeah, it's a fair question. We could take a look to see if that's helpful.
Thank you. Okay. Can I ask about the cost of Big Apple Connect? I know you said in your testimony, and certainly before, and the commissioner has testified that it is more affordable. It's currently funded at approximately $38 million per year
Correct.
to serve 330,000 NYCHA residents, which again is huge. That's not nothing. I think that's wonderful. But as noted in the prelim hearing that we had in March, we didn't see funding for FY 25 for the current budget, and wanted to make the ask. I know that the response was if the funding is restored and baselined, you said in your testimony that is the goal, that it would be a $190 million commitment over 5 years.
I'd have to do the quick math, but to your point, it was roughly like 38 million per year based on how many subscribers we get. So if there's more subscribers, it'll increase the overall cost per year.
So I guess my question is to you, so of that, and maybe not confirming the full amount, that is what the commissioner said though at the March hearing. All those, the 190 million or so would be going to these Altice and Spectrum, with no capital investment or infrastructure build out, right? That would be funding to sustain the 330,000 residents?
Correct. That's just expense funding to provide the services to the NYCHA residents.
So that's just to sustain the existing program, which you've said is a great program, but then there is no, what is the next step of build out for Big Apple Connect? I think at this point, would you say it's safe to say that there's no plans for expansion of this program at this time?
I would say at this time, it's about making sure that everyone in NYCHA who is eligible for it can enroll and educate those who may not be aware of the program, and make sure that they are aware of the program so they can get connected if they're not already. But we are committed to looking at ways, maybe not expanding Big Apple as it's currently constituted, which was always focused on NYCHA. Other programs that may benefit other New Yorkers, such as a program that was included in the Digital Equity Roadmap that HPD is spearheading, called the Internet Pilot, that similarly provides low-cost or free internet to Section 8 residents. So there's other programs of that ilk that we can look at.
But is that the program that came down from the state?
The funding came down from the state, but the program was initiated by the city.
By HPD.
Correct.
But the funding came down from the state, excuse me, okay. So there's no plan to expand at this point? Or what can you share with me? What have you all been able to, I guess, assess about the future of expanding?
So,
Because I think, and I'm so sorry to interrupt you, obviously there are NYCHA sites that are now, these are RAD packed, who are still very much public housing, and, you know, tenants with same need. And I know that in speaking with the commissioner, you know, shortly after the announcement of Big Apple Connect was made, that was what he shared, the intention to expand this program. So we're here now. I have gotten no sense from this agency that there is a plan to expand into those developments through this program. So what are you looking at right now?
So specifically with respect to the RAD packs, there is in the contract that NYCHA has signed with the private property managers who are taking over those developments, a requirement that the property managers provide free broadband to residents. So as they get started, replacing roofs and boilers and elevators, as part of that, they're also providing, or will have to provide, free broadband. And it's my understanding, while OTI is not intimately involved in that they are working with the smaller ISPs or some smaller ISPs to be able to provide that service to residents.
Are you talking, or is OTI in communication with those developments, those RAD pack
Well,
developments?
we're in touch with NYCHA to get updates on the status of it because it's, like I said, it's part of a large-scale, really construction project to update and rehab the developments.
And what is some of that feedback? from NYCHA?
It's going well, that there's some target dates for when the broadband will be available to folks, but that was always the reason why they were excluded initially from Big Apple Connect, because there was an anticipation that there would be a comparable, not identical, but a comparable broadband offering. And so those are unfortunately a little slower, but those are coming along.
Is there efforts from OTI to expand beyond the existing NYCHA sites, the RAD pack that you said that you're checking in with NYCHA about, and outside of this like Flume project?
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that there's other parts of the whole digital equity world, right? Not just infrastructure, not just access to the internet. And that's really where our digital equity roadmap comes into play, that highlights some of those initiatives, the device offerings, the digital literacy training courses that are available through city agencies across the city and libraries across the city, and that really are intended to kind of have the holistic digital equity experience. So, you know, certainly as you acknowledge and as we talked about, Big Apple Connect is the centerpiece to the city's digital equity goals and missions in an effort to bridge the digital divide. But the digital equity roadmap, and if I may turn it over to Associate Commissioner Wright to talk a little bit about the digital equity roadmap and the initiatives there, I think that will highlight the efforts that are underway currently.
I'm happy, we can definitely talk about it, but I think my questions are more focused just because I've heard different things, not different things, but I've heard the intent to expand for many years. And so I just need to know that is not what is happening right now. The digital roadmap is something separate, and we will ask questions, but with regards to expansion of connectivity to individual households is what I'm really trying to hone in on right now. So at this point, you know, again, you're looking to baseline it, of course, but at this point there is no commitment. You can't make a commitment or to expand beyond where you are at right now.
I think that's fair to say. I'll say yes to that. But what I would say is, again, part of the roadmap is new initiatives, starting with the Chief Digital Equity Officer, which we hope will engage additional communities and stakeholders in the space to identify where there may be a need for additional service so that we can make a targeted, logical decision as to where additional city resources can and should go in the future. So sitting here today, no immediate plans to expand Big Apple Connect, but that there are efforts underway to identify those areas of the city that can benefit from additional services and to see where we can strategically deploy those.
Okay, but beyond, I'm speaking just specifically about connecting residents to a free or affordable internet program It's Big Apple Connect. It's what exists right now in Big Apple Connect.
In terms of city initiatives, but not to
That's
rehash
right.
this, but there's the Affordable Broadband Act with the state recently passed, which provides low-cost broadband.
But that's the state.
But that's an area that the city is working with the Connect All office to get outreach out to the communities that can benefit from.
How often are you in communication with the state for this program?
Pretty frequently. I don't know if there's a schedule, like a specific cadence, but we do engage with them very often.
Okay. I think my last question about this is, at the hearing just last month, CTO Frazier said that there would be some announcements covering other large parts of the population, including Section 8. Do you have any details on that?
Associate Commissioner Wright can discuss a little bit some of the initiatives in the broadband roadmap, the digital equity roadmap that outlines that Section 8
Okay.
initiative that you referred to, and many others.
Okay. So we'll hold off then. So just kind of what's in the roadmap is what you're gonna.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I have questions for the roadmap. You'll have your time in the sun. Give me 1 second. Can you, on the conversations with RAD Impact, and this is, I'm nervous about NYCHA. So I represent, I think now four NYCHA RAD Pack development. Obviously, residents don't necessarily know the conversations that NYCHA is having with the city and the state, but are you able to share at this time which of those RAD Pack management companies OTI has met with or is speaking with? And how often are you all in conversation with them?
Yeah, to be clear, OTI is not directly involved in those relationships. That's between NYCHA and the private property owners and then those ISPs. We are regularly meeting with NYCHA to get updates on the status of it because frankly, as you mentioned, it's been...
Are they giving you updates often?
They are.
Yeah.
So we're in communication with NYCHA and getting those numbers. So I don't have the information as to specific developments. We can get that, either what we have in our records, or we can get it from NYCHA as well to get the latest status for you, particularly for those developments in your district.
Would you say that maybe at this point that you've heard from every RAD Pack development?
I wouldn't say that, because again, the conversations with NYCHA in particular, like NYCHA proper, not the individual development. So we're not speaking with the individual developments or representatives.
Right, I'm saying it to distinguish it. So the NYCHA developments that are in RAD Pact, would you say that you've been able to communicate with each one, I guess with NYCHA, about each one of those developments regarding connection?
The NYCHA has provided a schedule because they're being transitioned or converted to RAD Pact on a schedule that's planned out in advance. So the ones that are the process of being converted or have recently been converted, those are the ones we're focusing in on, understanding that there's additional work that needs to happen on the ones to be converted. So the ones that are in the pipeline down the road, we don't have much visibility into because we expect that there will be some time before those get resolved. But so we're focusing on the ones that will hopefully be activating the broadband service soon.
So, okay, so let me just understand so you are in communication, OTI, is in communication with NYCHA. NYCHA is responsible for reporting back to you or sharing with you how their negotiations are going with these ISPs. You're not working directly with
That's
the
correct.
ISPs.
And I wouldn't characterize it that NYCHA is responsible necessarily. It's just part of our interagency relationship that we have with all agencies, but in this case NYCHA, where we meet with them, we get an update, and we talk to them about the status.
Okay, so I guess I'm a little unclear on what the intention or the goal was, if that's the case, to basically say early on in 2022 that Big Apple Connect had the capacity to expand into these developments. Because it seems like what's happening, what you're describing, is not really like an active mobilization from these management companies. And again, I know them personally, they're in my district. They've never once brought this up to me. They've never once said that they are talking to NYCHA, and I can list those off to you if that'll help in your conversations with NYCHA. But it just seems like there was not proper steps taken originally in 22 by Commissioner Frazier when he said we have this plan to expand into NYCHA RAD, because what you're saying now, it does not feel like a strong Like, it doesn't feel like these management companies are being held accountable. It doesn't feel like they're bought into this program in an urgent way, is what I'm saying.
Again, to be clear, we're not expanding into RadPack. That there's a pre-existing contract and arrangement between NYCHA and those property managers to provide the broadband service. So it's not an active initiative that OTI is involved in, but one that we're certainly, given our role with the city in ensuring that broadband is ubiquitous and affordable and available, we are involved in making sure that those things are and offering our help to make sure those things are rolled
So
out.
each one of those management companies made commitments to connectivity in their RFP?
That's my understanding, yes. In addition to many other, parts of the rehabbing, the developments. Like
Sure. But I'm referring to this exclusively. Okay. Okay. Can you confirm that the city is currently paying Spectrum a bulk rate of $24.95 per unit for internet service through the Big Apple Connect program?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Did they commit to long-term price caps? Or is that price subject? So $24.95 is what they're charging the residents?
So $24.95 is what the city is paying per unit for every household that's connected to the Big Apple Connect program.
Is what the
for
city is
Charter.
paying, what
Correct.
we're paying. And so did they, again, I don't have the contract, but is there a price cap, or are the prices subject to change?
So for the duration of the contract, the price is fixed. It's subject to applicable taxes and fees, but the price is fixed.
And just remind me, the contract is until when?
So they were initially 3-year contracts with 2 one-year renewal options or options for up to 2 years in renewals.
2-year renewals?
2 one-year renewals.
Oh, sorry. Uh-huh.
No, I'm sorry. So we're actively in discussions with both providers now to ensure that there's no loss in service and that the program, as CTO Frazier has mentioned, is around for a really long time. So we're in active discussions with the providers so that the rates remain the same. Maybe there'll be some additional offerings that we hopefully be able to announce in the near future. But the expectation is that folks living in NYCHA will be able to have Big Apple Connect for a really long time.
Okay, and so how is that, how are you all meeting that expectation, or how are these providers meeting that expectation if there's no baseline funding yet, correct?
Correct, and we continue to secure funding year to year until that can be baselined, but we'll be hopefully entering into an agreement with both providers to provide service beyond this year.
Beyond this year, okay. So can you, if for some reason the city were to end their contract with Spectrum, would residents face an increase to the cost of their internet? What is the commitment from Spectrum and Altice? How can they afford that? How, with no baseline funding, what is that looking like?
So we negotiated early on in the administration, we negotiated that very low price point. You mentioned $24.95 for Charter. It's about $25 and change for Altice, and a very competitive price, well below the market rate for the services that we negotiated. You mentioned the cable TV, the high-speed internet, the very high-speed internet, the modem, the router, the cable box, remote control, all that, which has a market rate well over $100 per unit. So that's what a comparable rate would be for those services that we're getting for $24, $25. So for those folks who are already a cable subscriber, a subscriber to Charter or Altice, their cable bills in many cases were brought down to zero. If they only had basic cable and internet, they started getting $0 bills. For those folks who may have had packages where they had premium services, all those services that we negotiated that we pay for were stricken from their bill. So it went down considerably. So if they were paying just $190 per month for a cable package, the high-speed internet, the basic cable, the modem router, cable box, all those charges were removed from their bill because the city was paying for that. So I think it's safe to say, to answer your question, Chair, if the program were to go away, residents will see a sharp increase in their monthly bills, in some cases from zero if they're only getting the base services to something more substantial, or if they're already getting a bill for incremental premium services that they've signed up for. Those base services will now be added to their bill. So it's in our hope and expectation that we'll be able to fund Big Apple Connect in the short term and for a long time to come.
But if we're not, for whatever reason, if the city's not able to baseline this funding in the FY25 budget, and moving forward FY26, what of your negotiations with these providers, what is the incentive for them to maintain the price for residents as low as they are?
I can't speculate what their incentive is, but from our perspective, from my speaking personally, we would seek to secure the funding year to year. If it can't be baselined or if it's not yet baselined in the city's budget, we would just secure the funding that's necessary to keep the Big Apple Connect program in place year to year.
Okay. I'm going to pause on the Big Apple Connect questions. I know Councilmember Holden's got some questions, and then we'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Just a couple of questions on intro 878, I'm sorry. Are all current and past franchise agreements publicly available? And where can we find them? And why are some agreements not available?
Thank you, Councilmember. Good to see you. So all of our franchise agreements are on the city's website. So that's inclusive of our cable franchise agreements, mobile telecommunications, public communications, information services are all available. In some cases, they're like redacted for signatures, personal signatures, but they're all available, and we hope that they're all accessible for all people of all types of
Even
abilities.
some of them that were signed on or after 2006 are available?
All the current agreements should be, in fact, I would love to hear which one you're referring
we
to.
don't think so. So I think you have to go look at that. Also, New York State already has a broadband map, correct?
New York State, yes.
Yeah.
New York State.
What would it take to utilize the publicly available map, an interactive map on, because people don't know what again, we're at the mercy of these cable companies, and it's muddled, and they each claim they're better than the other. Is there somewhere we can go and look at this and say, what covers our area with an interactive map? That's what my bill does. Is that currently available?
So we do include maps on our website that has the franchise area for all the cable companies. So as you know, Altice and Spectrum don't overlap. They have separate geographic areas. Verizon Fios is available in most places around the city. So we do have that information. Down to the level of ISP, from beyond the cable companies, we don't have that information, and that may be difficult given our limited authority in regulating, not just limited, no
but
authority.
Just to compare and look, and even on performance, because I'm always at odds with my cable provider, saying, I'm not getting the speed. They come over, they find there's a wire that's not great. We have poles, or above ground, and the weather takes its toll on that. So I'm constantly having to keep after them. And then they use outside technicians, that they hire, and they complain of, we're stuck in between. What I'm saying is the company will say, oh, this guy wasn't right, that guy, and this is the same company, but they're hiring out.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if we're regulating this as we should.
Yeah, I mean, with respect to the cable providers, we do have provisions in our franchise agreement that require that they have, certain customer satisfaction requirements and repair things in certain amount of time. Customers, residents can complain to us. They can report to us any issues they're having with the cable company, and we help to resolve them. We have a team dedicated to that, whether that's billing or service issues.
Now you gather this information about complaints. Is there one place I can go and see how many complaints on Verizon, how many complaints on Spectrum, or?
I'd have to look. I mean, so generally they're centralized through 311, so there may be a 311 data set that can identify the source of the complaints or the category.
This is important because we're getting scammed by advertising all the time. You know that. And many people can't keep up with this, where if we had, like an area that we can see a comparison. Maybe it's not government. I mean, if you could argue, maybe it's not government's, role to do that, but I think if we're going to give franchises, franchisees, and we're gonna give them space in the public domain, that we should somehow decipher some of this, because it is very muddled. But let me just get into City Bridge. Since City Bridge announced its partnership with Zenfi, how many 5G towers have been installed across the city?
So there are just over 200 Link 5Gs that have been deployed. A little less than that are activated currently.
Do you have a breakdown by borough?
I don't have it in front of me, but we can
Okay.
get that right to you.
How many additional Link NYC kiosks have been installed since the announcement of the partnership? Do we have a number on that? I really don't get that many in my district. It's very slow. I had 2 at one point.
It's very likely that, so since the partnership, you mean City Bridge and Zenfi partnership? So that all of the 200 plus that have been installed have been done since that partnership. So that partnership is what's generating the new Link locations that are requested and ultimately the installations.
One other question, okay? Is City Bridge current on all the required franchise payments of the city? Because we had a huge issue with that in the previous council. How are they caught up?
Yes, so they are on time with all their franchise obligations.
Great, they don't owe us anything from, great. All right, that's good news. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. Okay. In a recent interview with City and State, Commissioner Frazier said that $2 billion budgeted for the Internet Master Plan was too much money. But if we break it down, he said that for a fraction of the cost of the $2 billion program, OTI provides connectivity to over 330,000 people in the city. If the city continues Big Apple Connect at its current rate, $38 million per year, like we said before, the city will have spent roughly $2 billion in 22 years. That's $2 billion with no capital investment, no citywide infrastructure, and service limited only to NYCHA, to public housing. Meanwhile, the Internet Master Plan proposed using $2 billion over potential decades to build a citywide public-private broadband infrastructure that could scale, deliver long-term affordability. Just to clarify, are you aware that the $2 billion cited in the Internet Master Plan was not all city funding and would have been over years?
I believe that's the case, yeah.
And it included private investment, and that the first investment was just that initial $157 million.
Right, and I believe there was more to come, but yes,
That's
it was
right.
initially 157.
Okay. So what long-term investments is the city making today in broadband infrastructure or sustainable affordability?
Yeah, I mean, it really goes back to the genesis of Big Apple. I'm not going to belabor the point of what Big Apple Connect does, but that's the reason why we went in that direction, because there is, in 2020, certainly in 2022, and for sure now in 2025, there is a ton of broadband infrastructure in the city in terms of the availability of it. We didn't think it was a good investment of city dollars, of limited city resources, to invest in what could be perceived as redundant, unnecessary infrastructure. It's not to say it wasn't for a good intent. Just as you acknowledge, Big Apple Connect has great intent and has ensured that hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers got connected. With respect to the Internet Master Plan, there was no guarantee that this investment of city dollars, private dollars, over many, many years would yield the results that we are seeing with Big Apple Connect. There's just, there's too many unknowns, and based on that, that's the reason why we went with Big Apple Connect and a lot of these also, in very important digital equity programs that,
But I mean, in the same light, there's no guarantee with Big Apple Connect. I mean, the funding that you're trying to get baseline, if you don't get a baseline, which could very realistically happen under this administration, you'd have to try to secure year after year after year. And so there is no guarantee even with this existing program, correct?
I mean, there's a guarantee in terms of the folks getting connected right away, and there's guarantee that they're receiving those benefits immediately upon almost day one of this administration, and for as long as, to your point, funding
There's
is
no
available.
guarantee that you can maintain funding, maintain it.
So,
And there's no guarantee that you're going to expand beyond NYCHA.
Correct, but as we've said, as we've maintained for years now, the expectation is that Big Apple Connect will be a mainstay, will be available just as heat and hot water is available to NYCHA residents, that Big Apple Connect will be there. So we're operating under that expectation.
Has the city conducted a cost-benefit analysis comparing the MSA-based Big Apple Connect model to the Internet Master Plan model? So $2 billion infrastructure investment, over 20 or so years versus $2 billion bulk purchasing 20 or so years.
I'm not aware of a specific assessment that was done relative to those two things, but it just based on the site test, we were able to see how we can make the biggest difference in the city immediately. So that was really what ultimately led
Can you
us
say
in the
that,
direction.
sorry, that last part again?
We assessed, we wanted to make the biggest difference to the folks who in most in need, to the most vulnerable populations, the most historically underserved, which includes all of NYCHA, and we wanted to get them connected immediately. So an analysis, a cost analysis or any other analysis would have ultimately led us still to a Big Apple Connect strategy.
But there's also, but I mean, 100% I represent about 8 NYCHA development sites, door knocked, totally familiar with the range of needs. And again, agree that the program is connecting people, and that's a huge accolade. But the needs that exist amongst NYCHA residents exist equally, not equally, but like similarly with other residents, maybe Section 8 voucher holders, maybe families that are doubled up right now. So I understand that this program is working and you're working to expand it even more to get to that 100%, but what is OTI's plan to expand beyond the existing target, the existing universe? Because those are also communities in need. And I'm not trying to be overly critical, I'm just trying to get you all to share what the plan is, and that the Internet Master Plan, I get it, while, in your testimony you shared this is like from years ago, the intent is to live beyond an administration. The intent is to live beyond a four-year, two-term mayor, to live beyond me, beyond you at this agency. And so if OTI is saying Internet Master Plan is the OG and we're not rocking with it, what are you rocking with now? What is the plan to expand actual connectivity in these other areas of need?
Well, again, you're going to hate this, but Big Apple Connect, it should be 330,000 New Yorkers, right? 330,000 New Yorkers, 150,000 households. No guarantee that the Internet Master Plan.
Why would I hate that? I don't hate that.
No, that I'm bringing it up again.
Don't put words in my mouth. Yes.
No, I get it. But that's the centerpiece of the plan. It's not the only part of the plan. As I mentioned, there's a lot of other kind of areas that are around it, and that we can look at alternative providers that can provide service like the HPD pilot and other areas where we could potentially expand infrastructure where it strategically makes sense. But a full-scale infrastructure deployment that's going to cost upwards of billions of dollars, where there's already a ton of fiber infrastructure already available, didn't seem like a wise use of the city's money, both at the time and today, and that remains true.
But we're not doing away with the existing infrastructure. The idea of the bill, and we'll get into those questions, is to provide something that is going to have vision, that is going to be able to evolve. Obviously, the Internet Master Plan came out before the pandemic. Based on your feedback and commissioners' feedback, a lot has changed. I agree. A lot of that may or may not apply, but I'm just trying to gauge what the opposition to something, just a plan. You don't even have to call it the Internet Master Plan, but what is the opposition to something that goes beyond the success of Big Apple Connect at this point?
We just don't see that there's a need for a major infrastructure play, and that seems to be at the core of 1122. It's like coming up with a plan to deploy new infrastructure to provide services. While certainly we share the goal of expanding access to low cost, free if possible internet, we see that there may be other ways to do it, either by leveraging the state program, the Affordable Broadband Act, which provides very low-cost broadband service to eligible households, or other programs that we may materialize over the future. But for now, Big Apple Connect is the city's big broadband investment.
So no need for infrastructure is the reason.
That was the determination a couple of years ago when the administration came into office, and that remains true today.
Okay. On the bundling for Big Apple Connect, what is the reason for cable being a requirement?
Well, for one, because they were cable providers under the master service agreement, and because they had, thanks to their cable agreements, the infrastructure in place to provide the internet. It just made sense because of the very low price that we were getting for each unit to include cable, basic cable, for folks to be able to look at, watch local news or get local access channels that they maybe otherwise couldn't get.
And they were offering lower prices than some of the smaller ISPs were?
Who were, I'm sorry?
Altice and Spectrum.
Well, so that little mini bid that we referred to earlier was available to the cable providers because they were the ones with the infrastructure in place.
And so in their responses, they each included cable just because they had the infrastructure, or was this something that?
I believe it was a requirement, or it was a.
I'm trying to understand what came first. Was it like the mini bid came out and everybody that participated also provided cable, so now it's part of this program, or was the city looking for providers exclusively that could provide cable? Because obviously that limits the pool.
Yeah, my understanding was that that mini bid had requirements for high-speed internet, basic cable service, and that the infrastructure was already in place so that they can get started immediately. So that was at the very beginning, if that answers.
Okay. So there was no intention for like real competitive process.
It was certainly competitive among those who were qualified to be able to provide the services that were
It's only them.
outlined.
It's 3 of them that you mentioned that applied, correct?
Well, one of the contingencies was that there be service available immediately to residents.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Were there any negotiations with the internet service providers? Just with Charter and Charter Spectrum, I apologize, Spectrum and Altice?
Yep. There were discussions with all 3 in an effort, as I mentioned, get the best pricing for the city. So we wanted to make sure that the services that were provided were adequate in terms of the speeds. It's minimum of 300 megabits per second high-speed internet, and that the rates were, certainly competitive with the marketplace, and in the cases that we ultimately negotiated were well below those market rates.
What do you all have a sense of what the difference is what the city would be paying for just internet versus internet and cable with these providers?
I don't have that offhand. It was pretty much the same. Really, it's largely the internet that costs the bulk of that per unit rate, but I don't have the breakout in front of me.
So it was almost the same?
For the most part. It wasn't a big difference if we were just procuring internet service.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you can share that at any point.
I'll see if we have that. And
just what
if we
the
do,
cost difference is. Yeah, we want to know why we're paying. I just want to know what we're paying more for. Okay, and I think I asked this before, so I jumped the gun a little bit, but do you know of the 330,000 users, how many of them have a TV set up with cable? Is that information that is reported to you all?
It's not reported to us, so we don't have that visibility.
Is it something that they can provide? Spectrum and Altice?
We could take a look at that. I don't want to commit to that. I don't know if I don't know. We could take a look to see if that's information we can get.
Yeah, I get it. I get that the intent was like the cable was kind of kind of a bonus. But again, I think there's dwindling cable subscriptions, and if we're paying at all any more money for cable, I'm just curious the intention of like keeping cable as part of that subscription. If all these providers are seeing dwindling subscriptions, people are not necessarily like watching cable, they're streaming it on their phones or their devices, and then I think it's important for you all to, as part of your contract, because the cable piece, it seems like very crucial to this designation. I think it's important that you all ask, well, how many of these 330,000 units are even connecting to cable? Is there a clause, or is there a possibility for you all to work that piece out of your renegotiations and your renewals?
We could take a look. I don't know offhand whether that's an option or one that we would want to consider, frankly. I mean, we do realize there's a benefit to providing the basic cable services to folks so that they can stay connected, not just online, but also to the local news and the community access organizations and the
Is that
PEG
part of your,
channels.
I'm sorry, is that included in your surveys? Are you asking tenants like, are you connected to cable? Are you using cable?
No, it was focused on the internet and how they're using the internet.
But the cable is like it's like a big part of your contract. It's a big reason why you designated these providers, correct?
It is, again, tying back to the fact that they had infrastructure.
And getting quickly connected.
Right.
Yes, I understand that. I just, I feel like if you're sending out surveys, I feel like it's a missed opportunity not to say like, how relevant is this cable subscription
Well,
in 2025?
we intended to have a very straightforward 5-question survey, so a lot of questions
One more
got cut.
question is, do you have cable at home? Are you using cable?
We can
Like,
certainly do that when we do the in-person surveys. We can have a more,
all right, well, I'm going to be at
involved
NYCHA this summer.
discussion.
Well, I'm going to be at NYCHA, so I'm going to see.
We
I'm
can
going to
plan it.
ask folks.
Yep.
Okay. Is there, and just for the sake of my colleagues who have other bills, I know I have it in your testimony, but is there anything else that you want to expand on any of the bills? Councilmember Wan's bills? Oh, I see. Yeah, anything else that I mean, I can ask specific questions, I'm sorry, but is there anything else? It seems like you're not in support of any of these bills. So I just want to see where you all are at with the remaining
yeah,
bills.
I think we would like more information, particularly in Councilmember Wan's bills, in terms of how, for example, the wireless network access to city facilities, how that would be, how she envisions that being implemented. Is it for users of a TLC licensing center, for example? Is it for members of the general public to come in and use the internet? And then we would have to do an analysis to see if the way it's set up is even available for public access. There may have to be a redesign of the network. There may have to be security protocols in place. There's a lot of questions that we have related
And
to
are
that.
you, yeah, and do you know how many agencies would be capable of providing internet to the public?
That are currently providing internet, or?
No, well, I mean, do you have a sense of how many would be able, under this bill, would be able to provide internet to the public?
No, I think we would have to do that. I don't want to speak for other agencies that may be present, but we'd have to ask another agency to do that assessment.
Oh, do we have someone here from DCAS? Yes, would you be able to speak to that, about how many agencies would be capable of providing free internet to the public? Oh, we have to be sworn in. Thank you, Irene.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want you to raise your right hand. And do you swear and affirm to tell the truth and answer honestly to council member questions?
Yes, I will.
Thank you so much.
So I represent IT for DCAS, and
Just share your name, my apologies.
yeah, my name is Nilesh Shah, and
Okay.
I oversee the technology for DCAS IT. So DCAS IT administers all the connectivity for our employees and like custodian staff who resides in this 55 buildings. And other than those 55 buildings, we don't do or oversee anything else. We do have tenants, other agencies who are the tenants within our buildings, and they actually manage their own internet connectivity and setup.
I'm sorry, it's really hard for me to hear in here. So can you said that what you currently, obviously you don't have internet that's set up for the public, is that,
Yeah, we don't, no.
okay. Do any of the agencies at this point, any of their infrastructure, it's set up
So-
for?
So we are not sure about that. That I will say will be more question for OTI because they oversee the citywide connectivity. We only so DCAS we only manage like connectivity within the 55 buildings that we manage kind of.
And are there any, thank you, are there any risks that you can speak to that you think would exist if there was access provided by these city agencies to the public?
I mean, high level, I cannot think of any risk as long as it's managed and secured right way, like, public internet versus private internet kind of, So for public, there's typically a different channel open for every user. But those all kind of things would, like let's say when we do implementation with OTI, we would go through the cyber review, like if there was a decision made to make publicly internet accessible within our 55 buildings.
Okay. And is there a cost, an additional cost? Like what would change about the existing contract with OTI within these city agencies to be able to provide internet beyond for the purpose of like the agency?
So for sure, there will be cost considerations. Like I can give you an example, like when we expanded our own private internet access within buildings, we had to install like wireless routers, we had to create separate channels, right? So if we are talking here about like say public internet access in DCAS's 55 buildings, then we'll actually have to work with the OTI like a networking infrastructure team, actually do the survey and come up with the cost analysis of what it would take to install, the access points across our buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you.
I think that's it for the DCAS question. And then for OTI, for Intro 486, which is the bill by Councilmember Juan on information on affordable internet programs for students and families. I think you mentioned in your testimony working with New York City Public Schools. Have you all had these discussions, or what are some of the discussions that you've had regarding this? And what's any feedback?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We have engaged with PEU and have initiated conversations with New York City Public Schools about backpack flyers. We are also planning a day of action, as Mr. Sykoff recommended in his testimony. We're hoping to do that mid-summer, and then also do a back-to-school event to promote the Affordable Broadband Act with the Connect All team. We have information currently posted on our website, but also looking to make that information available to people on the street. Putting it in backpack flyers is a great idea as a way of reaching populations that currently do not have online access. So we're excited to advance this over the summer.
And what is the information that you're thinking you're going to be able to share?
So the information would be focusing in on the ABA enrollment. So letting folks know that when they contact their internet service provider, what are the keywords that you need to be using in order to register for the discounted price, just to let people know that this is available. I don't think that it's something that we're going to see the internet service providers promoting, so we want to be doing that to make sure all New York City residents know that this is a program available to them.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else that you would be, is there any other internet program? Is there anything in your conversations with the state that you'd be able to include for families?
I think because of this ABA enrollment opportunity, offering a low-cost available option, $25 a month, that is such a wonderful offering for families in New York City. We are putting our effort towards promoting that. As it just recently rolled out, the Connect All team is sharing lessons learned that they are hearing of folks when they are trying to register and get signed up. So we're continuing to work closely with the Connect All team to learn any of those, to incorporate that into any communications. But I think we are going to continue to advance with promoting the ABA program.
And the day of action you all are thinking is?
So we're thinking of doing a day of action in the summer with PEU coordinating. They have their CUNY interns that can support that, and then doing another day of action in September for back to school efforts.
Okay. Okay. Is that data that, not data, but is that information from the day of action, or is that information that you are planning to track to see how many families are engaging with you all on this?
Definitely.
Okay, great. I mean, we would love to have it when you have it ready. Maybe even district by, like, school district if that's easier, but just some kind of breakdown of how people are responding to this.
Certainly.
Anything else? Legislation? Legislation, no. Continue on the question. Yeah, I have some more. Okay. Okay, sorry. A couple more questions on the cost of the master plan, and this is just for me to understand. I know that the 157 million was through, initially of the master plan was supposed to go through EDC, the Economic Development Corporation. Can you share if that money has been spent, or has any of it been redirected?
So yes, originally, you're correct, it was with EDC for a period, then I think it was transferred over to OTI. It has since been repurposed for a number of other public interface projects around the city, such as 311, My City, cybersecurity initiatives, and including the $2.4 million investment, excuse me, that we included in the digital equity roadmap. So it's been repurposed for a lot of other purposes.
For the digital roadmap, the 2.4, this is an expense, correct?
Correct.
That is capital funds, the 2.4 million.
It's in capital?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And what's the capital? What are you spending the money on?
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk through in more detail for the digital equity roadmap, but just specifically on the investments, it's a 1.1 million investment in refurbishing older adult centers, and that is focusing on updating and refreshing the technology. A $1 million investment in the expansion of the New York Public Library Tech Connect program, and then a $300,000 investment to grow the reach of NYCHA's digital vans.
Okay, libraries and then digital van, okay. Okay, and then of the 157 million, do you believe it's all been redirected at this point?
I believe so, yes. Yeah.
Okay, would you be able to share just a breakdown, kind of what you just did now of how that money was redirected?
Yeah, we'll see if we can pull that together.
Okay, thank you. Now the next question, the next series of questions I think are a little bit are specific about the internet plan, because I know that in that September 2022 hearing, and that you were there for, and then I think later with the commissioner, I was curious, obviously as a sponsor of the bill, what wasn't working, right? What was it that this administration just didn't agree with, based on kind of your previous response? You all felt there was no need for further investment in infrastructure, but I think the Internet Master Plan did have other aspects of it. Obviously, it brought a ton of stakeholders together, a ton of experts, internet service providers, one of whom, is my understanding, is Flume, is that designee for that state program. So there's, I think it's great to see that, they are being integrated into the city's broader vision. And the reality of like the value that these smaller ISPs bring. So if you're able, I would love to know, just kind of because I feel like you're not going to be able to answer these, but just specifically, are there specific parts of the Internet Master Plan, and I can go through them with you, that you feel are worth integrating? Or parts of the plan besides the infrastructure piece that you're like, this is just not going to work?
Yeah, one in particular comes to mind, which is leveraging city assets. So whether it's city buildings or other types of public infrastructure, that's certainly an area that was referenced in the Internet Master Plan, and there was an extensive engagement with city agencies at the time, excuse me, to catalog those potentially available sites where, whether it's a fiber provider or a wireless carrier can site telecommunications equipment on city facilities. So that's one of the reasons why we recently published a request for information, which is also referenced in the roadmap, which puts out a request for information from tech companies, the general public, elected officials, community boards, wide range of potential respondents, so we can learn how best to use public infrastructure to serve the public for digital equity purposes. So that's just the one thing that comes to mind, but there are certainly other elements of it that are, worth considering.
Was there an evaluation done? I believe at at one of the hearings, the commissioner said that there was like an internal evaluation of the plan, of the internet master plan. Does that exist?
I don't know that there's a formal paper evaluation, but there were certainly many, many discussions early on in the administration as to how best to proceed with both with the master plan and ultimately what turned out to be the Big Apple Connect program. So there were many evaluations. I don't know that there's a physical document.
Really?
I don't know.
You don't know that it exists. I mean,
I don't know.
I would be very disappointed if there's not something more formal. It was a really big document. It was brought together by a major coalition. Obviously, some of the members of that coalition felt like it was a slap to the face to abandon this plan. And that process was really formalized. So I would, if you can confirm that there was no formal evaluation, and if there is one, if you could share. But if there wasn't, I would be really, really disappointed that there was no, considering the time that it took to put together, it would be really, I think, disrespectful if OTI didn't formally provide something to, especially the providers that were on the hook originally, just out of respect to the coalition members.
Yeah, I mean, for certain, I hope it goes without saying, but we do have a tremendous amount of respect for all those providers, not just the ones who are initially contracted with, but the entire industry who seeks to do a whole lot of good in the city. We did at the time, I do recall, we made personal phone calls to representatives, to the chiefs, the CEOs of each of those companies, letting them know of the city's intent to move away from the IMP in another direction. So there was considerable effort to ensure that they were communicated with once a decision was arrived at. Again, in the
right,
early
but that
days of the
communication was to say, we're scrapping it.
Correct.
Right, and so my next question, I guess, is to understand, was OTI ever able, and I'm just going to kind of break down some parts of you let me know yes or no, break down some parts of the Internet Master Plan to the best of your ability. You let me know what you all didn't do. In phase 1, which is coordinating city processes, did OTI ever convene a full interagency broadband city asset task force after 2021?
I don't believe so. Again, that's a core element of the digital equity roadmap, is to convene, just that, a roundtable of city experts who will ultimately, help arrive at decisions that are made for broadband and digital equity that will eventually lead to bringing in external stakeholders as well.
It's in the roadmap, but I'm asking, this existed in the Internet Master Plan. So are you just saying that you just kind of redid it up?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly parallels to what was in the original plan to what we're doing now. So there, when we talk about the pivot away from the Internet Master Plan to Big Apple and other initiatives, it was not just because we don't believe that every element of the plan was not helpful. It was really about the core investment in infrastructure. That was the concern.
I understand. I'm just trying to make the distinction of now the bill that I'm trying to work with you all to pass. I'm just trying to make the distinction piece by piece, because you're saying you don't know if there's a formal evaluation. I've been talking about this since I started. I'm just trying to understand phase by phase where the decision was made. So that's what I'm doing with you now. So I understand there are parallels, but obviously the Internet Master Plan did call for this interagency task force. It exists now under the digital roadmap. Okay. And you all had a meeting already? Yeah? Okay. Well, the commissioner said that I would be made aware of it, and I was not at that fall hearing. Just want to let you know. So I would love to be made aware. I get it, maybe I won't be invited for many reasons, but I would love to be made aware so that we can stay in communication, so that I know how this is moving along. For phase 2, optimizing public assets, it outlined a universal solicitation for broadband using city-owned buildings. Did the city ever complete the public asset inventory that the plan called for?
I don't know that it was, so we have an inventory of public assets. I don't know that it specifically mirrors the one that was in the Internet
There were
Master
city-owned
Plan.
buildings, rooftop poles, and rights of way.
Yeah, a lot of that is unchanged, so that can be leveraged for future, and that's what I mentioned earlier about potentially repurposing elements of the Internet Master Plan that could be utilized in the future. So having a comprehensive inventory of city facilities, city assets, that can be utilized.
So, but you have that, OTI has that?
We certainly have the remnants of the original plan, but I'm certain that over time it's been updated with respect to new buildings that have come and gone over time.
Okay. Okay, phase 3 was infrastructure, not just subsidized service. It was about infrastructure and not relying on subsidized service. The plan states the city will invest in new infrastructure and can be shared by multiple broadband operators. What didn't work about this part of the plan?
Yeah, and Chair, we've talked about this today. It's really the investment in huge investment in infrastructure that's already, in many cases, widely available, and wouldn't necessarily materialize in the results that were sought, both under the master plan and that we seek to connect people to today.
Has the city invested any funding into shared broadband infrastructure?
Not to my knowledge, not for public use. There may
Okay,
be
not
other
under-
investments.
okay.
So.
Okay, and in 2022, Mr. Sykoff, you testified before this committee that there was a duplication in fiber infrastructure compared with the plan. Were there any places you identified that fiber infrastructure was missing?
Fiber infrastructure was missing? I don't believe so. I mean, that goes to the point earlier that I mentioned that nearly the entire city is covered, maybe not with fiber, but with coax or a hybrid of broadband infrastructure that's necessary. So we'd be hard pressed to identify the locations where there's no broadband infrastructure. There may not be fiber everywhere, which that's something that we're ultimately trying to get to by making our information services franchise available at extremely low cost to small providers. Not sure if you're aware, but we do encourage small providers or incentivize them to build out in the city by deferring payments for 5 years when they build out outside of the core of Manhattan.
Build out
Outside of the core of Manhattan, so above,
okay,
above
yes, yes,
96th Street in the outer boroughs, there's no payments to the city for 5 years for fiber that's deployed.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. So, I mean, it doesn't sound like you have it though, but there's no areas where infrastructure is missing. It ranges.
Where there's no broadband infrastructure
Right.
whatsoever, virtually nowhere in the city.
Okay. Okay. And do you agree with the premise that public infrastructure creates long-term affordability?
I mean, that's really the debate, right? That's what the core of the Internet Master Plan was intended to do, was build out public infrastructure owned by the city with the intention of getting people connected, giving them choice, and hopefully driving down costs. We did not see, that was the old administration's plan and policy. This administration came in with a concerted effort to make sure that people got connected without the eventuality or possibility that it would materialize into any actual connectivity for folks or that it would drive down prices. So based on that assessment that we made, it was determined that the best way to go forward was connecting people with the infrastructure that's already available.
Okay. Phase 4, which is the final phase, was enabling service delivery. in underserved areas, which is obviously Big Apple Connect, and that's what you're doing in NYCHA. Is any part of Big Apple Connect shared infrastructure?
No, it's not. It's each provider has their own independent fiber and coax lines, and they're using it for their own purposes. And to be clear, we didn't invest in that infrastructure. That was already pre-existing.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
That infrastructure was already in place prior to the, certainly prior to this administration coming on, and certainly prior to Big Apple Connect.
That was part of the
becoming
reason
available.
but so it's not shared to your knowledge?
I don't believe so yet. That's
Okay.
right.
I know Councilmember Holden's got some more questions, so I'll take a pause and I'll pass it to Councilmember Holden.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question on City Bridge. Does City Bridge engage with community boards regarding the placement and installation of Link NYC kiosks and 5G Link towers?
Yeah, thanks, Councilmember. So we, OTI, working with CityBridge. CityBridge identifies sites that work for them from a business perspective, where there's a 5G need, where there's a wireless need, where there's where they can bring fiber to, where the site may fit within the very extensive siting criteria that our franchise agreement requires them to fit within. And then OTI undertakes a very substantial community engagement role. So we have a 60-day process by which we reach out to council members, to community boards, borough presidents, bids, seeking comment from those entities and from their constituents. It's during that process that we routinely attend community board meetings, meet with members, and then we ultimately, try to address any concerns that we have regarding siting of kiosks. After that process, if there's no issues and the site passes the compliance review, it passes the state historical preservation review, which is another requirement, we then issue a notice to proceed to the franchisee. Once that notice to proceed is issued, the company can get permits to start building, and then we do another round of outreach to the communities, to all those entities, to let them know, hey, the site was approved and construction is about to begin.
So have there been examples when it wasn't installed because the community board objected, or the homeowners, or?
So where there's substantive, response in terms of it's hard to say. There haven't been many cases where we've relocated a site based on community feedback, where there's something that we just wouldn't know from not living there, right? If someone who's been living for 40 years on that block knows that there's a particular building. I'll give you the example. There's a case where there's a medical clinic where folks hang out after going to the medical clinic, and they hang out near the link. That's an example of some feedback that's substantive, that we can take back to the provider and say, hey, maybe pick another site, or see if you can provide the coverage objectives by going across the street or around the corner, because we don't want to add
So
to
there
the
have been
community.
modifications, or?
But generally, it's if it doesn't comply with the siting criteria or it doesn't pass the historical review, those are the ones that would trigger a new site to be selected.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. Yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to, and welcome to Councilmember Ressler.
Thank you so
You're
much.
timed, Councilmember.
Good to know, Madam Chair. This is my first foray to the Technology Committee, and I just want to say it is truly an honor to be. I'm using my time. This is important. It's truly an honor to be here with Chair Gutierrez, who is the very best of the very best. With that, I appreciate that we have an important objective to get more of these 5G towers up and to improve our internet reliability. But I am totally dismayed by the complete lack of community engagement by OTI. I think it's disgraceful, actually, and I don't use that word lightly. I have examples in my community where these towers are built directly in front, on private property, directly in front of people's homes, looking out the window, as far away as I am from Bob right now, closer than you and I sitting here today, and there's no communication with the property whatsoever. That just one day, you all start digging up the ground in front of their home without thinking that it was relevant to communicate with them at all. So the extent of the communication, as far as I understand it, was an email to my office letting us know that you were moving forward, and an email to the community board letting them know you were moving forward. I believe you're familiar with the site that I'm talking about on the north side as an example. Is that accurate, that that was the full extent of the community engagement that occurred for this siting? Yes or no?
No, there was certainly more to it.
Sorry?
There was more to it, the community engagement process. And you just walked in as I was answering Councilmember Holden's same
you
question.
emailed the community board and you emailed my office, and that was the extent of your community engagement. 2 one-off emails and no other communication and no conversations transpired whatsoever about this siting. Is that correct?
So there's notifications that are sent to every council member in whose district their
Sorry, this was a
location.
yes or no question. The extent of the community engagement that you all did for this siting, as an example, just picking this site as an example, was 1 email to me and 1 email to the community board. No other communication, no other conversation, no other community engagement whatsoever. Yes or no?
No.
Okay, what else did you do?
There was also a letter that's sent out to the borough president, and I'm not sure if there's a bid in that
There's
area,
not.
but it was sent out to the borough president's office, all with an effort to
Okay. So you sent 3 emails to us, me, the borough president, the community board, and that was the extent of the community engagement about the installation of a 30-plus foot tower directly in front of somebody's property. That inherently means that my job is to raise the alarm, sound and flag concerns and impose, right, and make noise about every potential sighting so that people in my community are aware and organized. I don't want to make your life impossible, but if you're not going to talk to the property owners, the people that are most impacted by a sighting, then I'm going to have to pursue legislation to impose a much more meaningful community engagement process. I've worked on siting of human service facilities and sightings of all kinds of different facilities, infrastructure. Some of it's welcome, some of it's not welcomed when I've worked in the office of the mayor. And never have I encountered a process that is so completely inconsiderate and lacking as what you all do. City Bike, which is a privately operated entity. DOT talks to every single property owner whenever they're putting a dock into a potential site. Sometimes they listen to what the private property owner's concerns are, sometimes they don't, but they talk to them. Why do you not think OTI needs to talk to the property owners that are directly impacted? Why is that not your job?
We've had extensive engagement with property owners, with concerned residents at community board meetings. Myself, my colleagues, the franchisee have attended countless community board meetings with individual members to talk about specific sites.
If the community board or the council member sounds an alarm and makes a lot of noise and gets everybody worked up and opposed. So instead of you taking the responsibility to constructively, thoughtfully have conversation and engage the stakeholders who are directly impacted, you're saying it's up to the council member to scream and shout and cause issues, or it won't happen at all.
Well, but in those cases I described, it wasn't a case of anyone screaming and shouting. It was we send a letter, they communicate, they disseminate it to their constituents. They say, hey, we'd like to have more, we have questions. Who can we talk to? They call us up, say, can you come to a community board meeting? And we sit there for hours on weeknights addressing questions.
I've been to community board meetings. I've served on community boards. I attend every single community board meeting that in the council district I represent every single month. I know what community boards are like. But what I don't understand, like genuinely don't understand, is how a city agency could be so completely inconsiderate and completely lacking in doing any meaningful community engagement around a process unless you're absolutely forced to. That is a failure. So I am drafting legislation today that is going to that is going to regulate every single step of the community engagement process. We are going to force OTI to, in time-specific ways, talk to every single impacted stakeholder, get every single piece of feedback, jump through every single hoop that you can possibly imagine to make sure that this is done the right way, because you're not working with me and my communities, so we're going to force you to. Thank you.
Production. All right. Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Jen. Okay. I just want to, I know that we have a number of people signed up to testify, and I hope that some of you, all of you, can be here to listen. I just have one kind of off question, which is about Wi-Fi in parks. Can you share with me if that is part of a franchise agreement?
So there's a couple of initiatives in the parks related to the cable franchise agreement from many, many years ago. There's a limited free Wi-Fi that's made available by the cable companies at certain parks. I think it's like 120 parks around the city. So you get 3 free 10-minute sessions, I believe, and then you can pay for a day pass if you
And
if you
I'm
so
sorry,
choose.
you said it is part of the franchise agreement?
It's I believe a side letter to the cable franchise agreement from like 2010 or something. It goes back a ways. So I don't know that it's in the core of the franchise agreement, but it was a commitment made by the cable companies to provide parks Wi-Fi. That's in addition to
From 2010, you think?
I'd have to look back at the year. It's been a minute.
Sorry, this is yours. Okay. Okay.
And that's in addition to a separate agreement that the Parks Department has with AT&T. It's in the form of a gift agreement to provide Wi-Fi
That's
service.
the gift agreement with AT&T. Okay, so that's a question for Parks. Okay. I want to thank you all for your time. I hope that we can have further discussions on all the bills, particularly the Internet Master Plan. It sounds, based on kind of what you shared here today, what I know, what I've read from the digital roadmap, there are so many elements that you all have, thoughtfully put together that I think were included, and there could have been an opportunity to run parallel to the Internet Master Plan. And the intention and the reason that it has a support, and the reason that the bill's even been endorsed by outside of my colleagues, but just stakeholders that you already work with, is because it provided a vision and longevity that outlived administrations, egos, visions, all of that. And I think I understand that there is, this assessment from the agency about the realities of the need for infrastructure. But what we are trying to achieve is guaranteed, to the best of our ability, connectivity, devices, internet for every single New Yorker. It is, obviously, this is a necessity. And I'm hearing from more and more people about how they are making the difficult decision of not paying for internet, letting their phone contracts lapse because the cost of food is so high, the cost of public health care, of childcare is so expensive. And I think it's an opportunity for New York City to shine, because those are what our values are. So to say that there is an absolute abandonment of an internet master plan, but then run this roadmap that is in many ways highlights a lot of what was in there, I think is disingenuous. And I hope that we can work together to really create something that has longevity beyond an administration, beyond a mayor, beyond a council member, because that is really what we deserve.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Councilor. I would just sum up by saying our goals are certainly aligned. Everything you just described is very much at the forefront of what we're trying to do, not only with Big Apple Connect, but with all the initiatives. I don't want to minimize the impact that the roadmap has already and will continue to have at ultimately bridging the digital divide. It addresses everything you talked about in terms of access to devices and affordable access to the internet, digital literacy training, digital education. All those things are addressed, but there's certainly more that.
And those were all
more
things
work
that were
we
in the
can do.
Internet Master Plan.
Some elements which I addressed are
I'm
worth-
just trying to distinguish what is real and what is like ego of this mayor, to say, this is my thing. I don't want to hear anything from the previous administration. And he can do whatever he wants. Any mayor can do whatever they want. But there is value in that plan. There is value in the hours spent that every single stakeholder and expert put into that plan, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we agree that there's certain elements of it that should and is being considered, and you see it as you acknowledge, you see it in the roadmap. So we do look forward to sitting down with you and seeing if there's ways that we can help accentuate some of the already existing initiatives and maybe come up with some new stuff going forward.
I thank you all for being with us. Thank you. We are going to take a quick 2-minute bathroom break before switching over to public testimony. Okay, thank you all so much. Sergeant, I can start? Okay, thank you. I now open the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2.5 minutes to speak on today's hearing topics: broadband access or related legislation, Intro 198, 481, 483, 486, 878, and 1122. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. You can also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings, once again, will not be accepted. Our first panel, we have Professor Michael Santorelli, Andrew Rasich, and I apologize, Rache, I apologize, please step forward. Ash Wolfson and Alex Spiropoulos, and I apologize for the mispronunciation. And anybody can start, whichever. Andrew, do you want to start? Okay, yes, go for it. Yeah.
Councilwoman, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Very important hearing on a very, very important topic. My name is Andrew Rache, and I'm the founder of Civic Hall, the city's and the country's largest digital skills training center focused on providing underestimated populations with the skills they need to compete for jobs in New York's growing technology ecosystem. I'm also the founder of Mouse.org, which began wiring New York City public schools to the internet all the way back in 1997, at a time when even if a single teacher in a school had an AOL account, Vice President Al Gore would have considered that school wired to the internet. Suffice to say, bridging the digital divide has been my life's work. A quality education, safe and secure housing, and access to essential infrastructure are pillars that lift up marginalized communities, and today, broadband access must be recognized as essential infrastructure. Thanks to years of both public and private investment, virtually every New Yorker now lives in an area where reliable broadband service is available. But availability alone isn't enough. The real challenges we face are adoption, ensuring seniors and low-income families have the digital skills they need, and making sure every household has a computer or tablet to actually access the internet. Irrespective of some of the criticisms today, we have made some important strides with programs like Big Apple Connect, which are providing free internet to more than 300,000 New York City Housing Authority residents, and that number continues to grow. Big Apple Connect shows what's possible when the city works hand in hand with existing providers to deliver fast, affordable service, leveraging infrastructure that's already in place. Another important tool is the state's requirement that broadband providers offer a $15 a month service to low-income families who qualify through programs like SNAP, Medicaid, and National School Lunch Program. Many New Yorkers are eligible today. The challenge is getting the word out and helping them enroll. As we move forward, we must be careful about investing in duplicative infrastructure in ways that make sense, but also thoughtful about the ways some of those resources could be directed towards bridging other parts of the digital divide, including funding digital skills training and providing devices so that all New Yorkers can fully participate in the opportunities of broadband access. The good news is broadband is more affordable and more accessible than ever before. Now is the time to finish what we've begun with broadband and moving on to ensure that every New Yorker can use it effectively and meaningfully to participate in the digital economy of our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Maybe you want to go next?
Sure. Please.
Thank you. Council member, thank you for holding this. My name is Ash Wolfson. I'm a volunteer installer and outreach leader with NYC Mesh. Since our founding 10 years ago, we have served as an affordable and accessible option for thousands of New Yorkers who don't have any other option. I can testify personally that I've installed internet for people who have never had home internet before. And for those families, internet access means access to jobs, training, public resources, education, and community. Internet is a necessity, and we wouldn't tolerate these disparities in other essential services. Yet the city has not made sufficient investments to reach many families across New York City. It is clear that the major internet service providers have no intention of correcting this despite having the resources to do so. We are a small team working on a shoestring budget, and despite that, we've been able to connect thousands of New Yorkers. Every dollar we receive goes right back into the community, and we provide a number of public benefits, including providing hotspots in public spaces and rooftops across New York City. Our volunteers are extremely dedicated, showing up to spend their evenings and weekends installing internet for people. We also work with many communities, educating them on the use of their technology. I can testify that we are overwhelmed by the need for digital literacy programs, especially among non-English speaking populations. And it's really a struggle to empower people to use the technology available to them when they don't even know how to work with it. We are eager to work with city government to improve our ability to reach these families and make affordable and accessible internet available to all families.
Thank you. We're going to reset the time, and then you want to go next?
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Santorelli. I am the director of the Advanced Communications Law and Policy Institute at New York Law School right up the street, a program that focuses on all things broadband here in New York City, at the state level, and across the country. I'm going to make many of the same points that Andrew made, but in a different way. So getting back to the Internet Master Plan, that is a supply-side solution to a demand-side problem. You can't build your way out of broadband adoption issues. And the data shows that the Internet Master Plan is even more unnecessary now than when it was released in 2020. We do know broadband availability in New York City, and where there's no service is 99.98% availability across the city. The state has released new data on that, and it shows where the 740 or so unserved and underserved locations are across the city. That's great progress. That should be celebrated. At the same time, broadband adoption rates in recent years have increased according to the Census Bureau, but they've plateaued over the last few years, even with widespread subsidies available, making it free or very low cost to get online. So respectfully, these discussions need to focus on what the data are telling us, and that more attention is needed to focus on convincing the digital holdouts to get online, the final 10 or 25% that are not online, because the conditions for broadband adoption seem pretty ideal with universal availability and the wide availability of subsidies and low cost or free options. Just making cheap or free broadband available is not enough, and we've seen that. There's significant data showing that these subsidies move the adoption needle only so much. To bring the rest of the unconnected households online, more needs to be done at the very hyper-local level to show why broadband is relevant to digital holdouts and why they need to take the necessary steps to get a computer, sign up for a subscription, and if needed, get a subsidy to help pay for it. This is very hard work, very resource-intensive work, but fortunately, New York City is home to many organizations, including Civic Hall and others, that have great experience in doing this and have shown results in doing this. And so, respectfully, the city's best positioned to lift those organizations up with more funding and assistance to help scale them out. And to the extent that more planning is needed, there's more thinking and strategizing needed to figure out how the city can strategize and come up with a plan for harnessing all the great work that's happening and spreading it out across all the boroughs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Alex Paropoulos, and I'm the Director of Government Relations at Tech NYC, an organization representing more than 550 technology companies. Our membership includes hundreds of innovative startups, as well as some of the largest tech companies in the world. We are committed to ensuring that the tech sector remains a leading driver of the city's overall economy and that all New Yorkers can benefit from innovation. We are here to express our strong support for Intro 1122, which will require OTI to create and publish a comprehensive plan for achieving universal, affordable, and equitable internet access across New York City. This legislation addresses one of the most critical issues facing our city today, digital equity. In an increasingly connected world, access to the internet is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It affects how residents find jobs, access education, communicate with government services, and participate in civic life. Gaps in broadband access continue to reinforce existing disparities in income, geography, and opportunity. We applaud the legislation's comprehensive and forward-looking framework. By focusing on multi-agency coordination, public-private partnerships, and targeted outreach, this bill sets the stage for a citywide effort to close the digital divide. It recognizes that addressing infrastructure alone is not enough. We must also consider affordability, accessibility, digital literacy, and trust in the system. We also believe that the collaboration this legislation envisions between city government, internet service providers, community-based organizations, and private sector partners can serve as a model for how to tackle large-scale, cross-cutting challenges in an inclusive and equitable way. Tech NYC stands ready to be a partner in that effort. Our members are deeply invested in New York City's future. A more connected population helps build stronger workforce pipelines, fosters innovation, and ensures all communities can participate in and benefit from the city's tech-driven economy. This legislation is not just good policy, it is a critical investment in the long-term health and equity of our city. We thank the City Council for continued leadership in advancing digital inclusion and urge the swift passage of 1122. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I just want to start off, I want to thank you, Andrew. I was a student in 1997, so for our one tiny computer in the back of my classroom, thank you for connecting us.
Thank you.
It was a slow process. I had a couple of, just like one or two questions based on your testimony. Ash, thank you for your testimony and for your work with Mesh NYC. Have you or any of the other volunteers at Mesh reviewed the city OTI's digital roadmap? Anything, I guess from today's hearing and considering that the administration's response and many of my questions was like, we're doing it and we're trying to do it in the digital roadmap. Where do you think some of the holes are potentially that are not covered by the digital roadmap, for example?
I think there's a lot of communities where, there's been a lot of talk about how extensive coverage is, and that's important. But what a lot of this conversation has failed to address is the quality of those connections. Mm-hmm. In much of the city, even if broadband is technically available, the advertised speeds often don't match the speeds that are available, and there were frequent outages, which, especially if you're someone who is using it for something like education or for your job, that can be a significant burden. I believe that in large parts of the city, there has not really been an effort to address this lack of quality, and that the OTI hasn't really presented a plan to reach out to significant parts of the city on that basis. Mm-hmm. They've really only addressed this very binary question.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Ash. I think, and Michael, in your testimony, you said that more effort should be focused on the holdouts, right? The people that are not necessarily connected. The people that are not connected. In your opinion, do you think that there is something more specific that OTI should be focused on, right? Some of the things that Mr. Saikov focused on today in NYCHA, for example, is like kind of leaving that outreach to the internet service providers through Big Apple Connect, right? They're door knocking. What is something that OTI can be doing, the city should be doing? I asked for data, they don't have it. Like, what are some of the reasons people aren't connected? A lot of it was anecdotal, but in your experience, what do you think we need to be doing? How can we be even more targeted?
Well, I think as a first step, it's helpful to, like you said, try to figure out why people are online, and the best information we have are just general surveys from national surveys that always seem to come back to the same sort of reasons. Affordability has been one, but also tied into that is this notion of relevance, or seeing that a connection might not be worth the investment of your resources. If you're trying to weigh that against groceries or an electric bill, then broadband, if you don't view it as something that's essential to your life, then you might cut that off of your budget. But at the same time, there are lots of other nuanced barriers across lots of different communities, and just trying to understand what those are, and they differ from older adults to low-income households with children, and it goes on, and you can. The only way to get that data at a large scale is just to go into the communities, and there are programs that are working at the local level across the city. In these communities, trying to get them online so there's arguably the city could be trying to reach out to those groups and engage them and get information from them, and just figuring out what the landscape is of those providers, because again, there's Civic Hall, which is great, but there are so many others across the 5 boroughs that are doing this at a much smaller scale, that arguably need to be recognized and get more resources if they're proving to be successful. So that's the roadmap that I read that the mayor put out seems like a good first step, but it seems like there's a lot more work that could be done to kind of bring it all together into a strategy, like a more ground-up strategy to try to get more people online.
Council, would you mind if I add to that?
Yeah.
Answer that question? So, for years we've been focusing on the physical infrastructure and the distribution. I remember when Mike Bloomberg was mayor, he announced that 97% of the city was covered by broadband, and that was considered a win, but 40% of the city's population couldn't afford it, so it didn't, he didn't highlight that particular detail. Right. The digital divide is actually now worse than it's ever been. Not because of the infrastructure, but because of the ability to use it is not in the hands of the people who need it the most. And now, with the advent of AI, we are now approaching even a larger digital divide, not only between the citizens of New York and this technology, but the institutions that support those citizens also are not able to take advantage of the technology because the skills that they need to navigate these networks are not easily accessible. So the funding that's focused on infrastructure, and your criticism of OTI or the city's policies are great, but what we really need is a holistic plan that looks at the digital divide holistically, not just as physical infrastructure, whether it's mesh networks or whether it's broadband providers, but rather are we actually training New Yorkers to be able to use the technology at whatever cost or ability or even the quality of the connection. If we don't get people to understand the potential of its use, there's no point in talking about the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking around. Yeah.
Thanks.
We've met
Yeah.
a very long
Well,
time.
yeah, it's really nice to see you.
Our next panel, Noel Hidalgo, Susan Peters, and Stuart Reed. Anybody want to start?
Would you like to go first?
Why don't she go here? We'll go this way.
Great. All right. Ready? Great. Thank you, dear Chair Gutierrez and fellow council members and staff. Beta NYC is a public interest technology nonprofit dedicated to helping New Yorkers access information and use technology. I want to preface by saying digital literacy must be viewed as critical infrastructure. We are, for transparency purposes, we're recipients of the state's Digital Equity Technical Assistance Grant. And since 2008, we have taught a diverse group of people to learn, earn, and grow their networks. We have trained and employed this committee's staff. We have taught over 50,000 New Yorkers how to use their data and mentored a new generation of civil servants to whom we depend on. Our work has equipped New Yorkers with digital and data literacy tools to hold government accountable. Additionally, I'm a father of a brilliant 33-month-old boy who was born with profound hearing loss and many medical complications. We've been dependent on telehealth and virtual therapists since his birth. Twice a week, my wife son and I leverage virtual meeting tools to meet with his teacher at Lexington School for the Deaf in Queens. We use the same technology to meet with representatives from the Department of Education and Early Intervention who are scattered across the city. Every day we use Signing Time, Signing Savvy, PBS Kids, YouTube, and a handful of digital media tools to entertain and learn American Sign Language. At home, I have used every conceivable network connection, cable, DSL, cell phone modems, and it took 10 years for Fios to come to my small Greenpoint apartment. By the way, I'm delighted, but I wish there was more competition. Your internet master plan would ensure bi-directional high-speed internet connections, fueling my work, my education, and my son's future. About the bills that you proposed today, we have some critical comments, actually more like constructive critiques. I will submit that in written testimony, but just to speak highly is that we love your bill. We love that it has an advisory board. We propose that your bill should be the foundation for helping OTI execute its digital equity roadmap while ensuring that digital literacy is once again as written as critical infrastructure. In 17 seconds. The high-level idea is that really we need a lot more funding. I think that the previous panel was articulating that very clearly. We have lost all of the federal research funding, the education funding, any equity funding, and now we're in a situation where we need to ensure that we can baseline our level of work and be invested in as foundationally as we are investing in critical infrastructure, and I have many more thoughtful written comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to reading them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Peters. I'm a member of New Yorkers for Wired Tech, and I'm a consulting party to the National Historic Preservation Act for Manhattan Community Board 7. I am negatively replying to these bills that expand wireless and not wired communication. Our federal regulator, the FCC, acts outside the rule of law. In August 2021, the FCC was told by a federal court to return to court after looking at 11,000 pages of scientific research and testimonies that they ignored. These 11,000 pages showed biological effects from electromagnetic energy below the FCC's 1996 guidelines, published in 1996 and never changed. The FCC has ignored the court for 4 years. This is a flagrant disregard of the rule of law. Every day, more and more evidence is published validating the damage done by wireless. Here is one such study published this last month of this year concerning damage being done by cell phones to male fertility. The title, The Effects of Radio Frequency Radiation on Male Reproductive Health. Based on an analysis of 90 scientific articles, it highlights the risk of young men keeping cell phones in their trouser pockets for hours every day. You see it on the street all the time. Some of the risks of cell phones being kept in trousers includes disrupting the development of sperm cells, cell oxidation stress damaging sperm DNA, harmful cell inflammatory processes, changes in hormonal levels, decreased sperm mobility and vitality. In sum, don't put your cell phones in your pockets anymore and wire your devices at home. And I'm going to show this. I hope it gets into the record. You see this all the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stuart.
Madam Chair and honored council members, thank you for this opportunity to speak about the Internet Master Plan and the City Council's plan for its resurrection. My name is Stuart Reed, and I'm the co-chair of the Smart Community Initiative, a resident-led, not-for-profit organization focused on providing free Internet applications and services to public housing communities. First and foremost, I have to thank the many elected officials, organizations, and individuals that have made it possible for me to speak with you today on this topic. Councilmember Jennifer Gutierrez has been a tireless and fearless advocate of community-controlled technology initiatives, and I thank her and your staff for your dedicated work. Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, Congresswoman Nydia Velazquez, NYCHA COO Eva Trimble, the St. Nick's Alliance, the City College of New York, including President Vince Boudreau, WHCR General Managers Angela Harden and Keziah Glow, the Internet Society, New York chapter, Diana Blackwell, TA President at Fred Samuel Apartments, Deborah Benders, Resident Council President at Cooper Park Houses, and Nathaniel Green, NYCHA Manhattan North District Chair and TA President at Dyckman Houses. Thank you all for your support. And finally, Ethel Velez, may you rest in peace, knowing that your tireless efforts as NYCHA Manhattan North District Chair, James Weldon Johnson, TA President, and co-chair of the Smart Community Initiative were not in vain. As the Council is well aware, the Smart Community Initiative, or TCI, was among those organizations selected to receive funding from the initial $157 million that the City Council set aside and designated to fund the Internet Master Plan. Here we are, some 3 years after that, and the current administration decided it had a better solution and paused TSCI's community-operated and controlled project, and OTI efforts to bring broadband equity, opportunity equity, or community-led and operated stimulation to our public housing and lower-income communities have been underwhelming and financially lugubrious at best. Where is the community opportunity in the current iteration of the city's plan? Certainly, it is not in anything we have seen. The administration currently pays millions annually to broadband incumbents, Spectrum and Optima, while our group was told by the current administration that we would be included. We have seen nothing in follow-up to what only can be described as a hollow promise. It is critical that the City Council not abandon its plan to provide significant funding for out-of-the-box, innovative solutions and organizations that address the chronic distress in our public housing and other low-income communities. TSCI's Internet Master Plan project does just that and should be unpaused and fully funded.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have that written, the testimony?
Yes.
Oh, it's right here. I have it.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you all
The
so
written
much
is
for
a
your
little bit longer.
Yes, I
Yes.
see the whole. Thank you. Thank you all so much for your testimonies today.
Okay.
Thank you.
No questions?
No questions.
Okay.
Next panel, I'd like to call up James Ford, Odette Wilkins, Jose Rodriguez, and Keziah Sullivan. Is this one person? Yes. Okay. Okay. Do you want to start on this side? Thank you. Just make sure the light is on. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Hi, my name is James Ford. Thank you for the time. I guess I would just like to add to the conversation. I've heard people speak about cybersecurity, but I haven't heard people talk about dual-use technology. So for the sake of brevity, I'd just like to refer to Dr. James Giordano. If you're unaware, he has a lecture at West Point, the War College, called The Brain, the Battlefield of the Future. And Giordano talks about dual-use technologies. And I think it's important to have on the table, at least as a part of the conversation, that a lot of the technologies that are part of this infrastructure have these capabilities. He tells the cadets, he says, now these are the cadets at West Point, this is Dr. James Giordano. He tells the cadets, you will encounter the weaponization of neuroscience in your personal lives and in your careers. They are valuable, viable, and they are in play now. And he also says, know these two acronyms. And I've heard the word access today, which kind of, not that it's good or bad, it just reminded me of the conversation they were having or at this lecture. He says, WMD squared, Know this acronym: Weapons of Mass Destruction and Disruption, and AAA: Assess, Access, and Effect. They're talking about the weaponization of neuroscience. And I'm not suggesting that this is the intent, but I think it's important to have on the table that we should understand that all these technologies have these capabilities, and that in fact some of them have been invented with the intent to have these capabilities. So I think I guess what I'm here to share is I think it's an important thing to put on the table for any kind of conversation regarding to this type of infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Whichever order. Oh, can you just turn on your mic, please? Make sure so we can hear it. Just the red light should be on.
Oh, thank you very much. I am Odette Wilkins, President and General Counsel of Wired Broadband, Inc., a nonprofit advocating for safe telecommunications and am part of the New York City Alliance for Safe Technology. I am also a technology transactional attorney and recently served on the Federal Communications Commission's Communications, Equity, and Diversity Council, along with Chair Gutierrez. We at Wired Broadband are keenly interested in digital equity and inclusion, but the bills do not adequately address these issues, neither does the master plan. The bills say nothing of how to make internet affordable, how to identify where the access gaps are, or how to safely deploy telecom infrastructure that preserves the health of the communities. It also leaves to the discretion of unelected administrators at OTI who work in partnership with the telecom industry but not in partnership with the communities. I have witnessed OTI's participation at community boards, and OTI's track record has been abysmal, with a complete disregard for community input on the irresponsible deployment of wireless telecom infrastructure, especially the 5G towers, in our communities, threatening our health, especially our children, and property values. What OTI has not told this committee is that 16 community boards representing 25% of New York City residents, over 2 million people, oppose the 5G cell towers in their districts. It is in writing, it has been sent to the mayor, it has been sent to OTI. They want wired broadband. The message is clear. They don't want the 5G towers, and they don't need them. Residents also don't want the pole-top antennas or pods or utility poles outside their windows or rooftop antennas directly above their apartments. I know of the stories that people have suffered from this. Studies have shown that children are more susceptible to wireless's adverse biological effects, including cancer. The World Health Organization just published a review citing wireless's high cancer risk. 5G has never been tested for safety. No federal agency is testing wireless for safety. 5G is likely to exacerbate the digital divide, according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office. New York City should have a cohesive and sustainable plan, not patchwork. New York City should have municipal broadband where it owns the telecom infrastructure and then leases it out to providers. May I conclude?
Yes, please, thank you.
Thank you. That means connecting everyone with fiber, for which Verizon got ratepayer subsidies to do, but didn't. That will provide affordable broadband now and in the future. That would provide what Intro 486 seeks to achieve, providing internet to students and families. Chattanooga, Tennessee is a model with 600 square miles of fiber connected to every home, business, and school. It has the fastest internet in the United States, offering symmetrical 1 gigabit download and upload speeds at affordable prices and one of the fastest in the world.
Odette, can you conclude, please?
Yeah, just one more thing. With the windfall of profits, they are providing free internet to every household that has a school-age child. And that is, I think, what the bill is trying to do.
Thank you. Thank you for the reference. We have your testimony. I'll take a look at it. Yes. And the next panelist, please.
Good
Good afternoon, Councilmember Gutierrez, staff, and fellow New Yorkers. My name is Keziah Sullivan Norman, also known as Keziah Glow, and I serve as Interim General Manager at WHCR 90.3 FM, Harlem Community Radio. It is an honor to appear before you today to share an important initiative that strengthens our city's emergency communications infrastructure and ensures that every voice, especially those most vulnerable, are heard. WHCR 90.3 FM is a community radio station housed on the campus of City College, CCNY, one of the country's leading public research and engineering institutions. Our station has long embodied CCNY's spirit of innovation, public service, and commitment to uplifting underserved communities. In that spirit, shortly following Superstorm Sandy in 2012, we collaborated with local community organizations, technologists, including Digital Divide Partners, to form the WHCR Emergency Broadcast Team, which developed precisely to respond to the clear need for localized, reliable communications during crisis. The urgency of this work is personal for us. During Hurricane Sandy, one of WHCR's veteran engineers experienced the collapse of normal communication systems firsthand. From Far Rockaway, he heard heartbreaking calls for help over the radio. He described it being like a war zone, but the enemy was the weather. During the critical window, even the police precincts, the National Guard's posts were overwhelmed. This story is not an outlier, it is a warning. WEBT's response has been to train local residents in emergency communications and protocols, including emergency preparedness and mitigation preparedness, and to collaborate with others to create innovative ways to communicate with our communities before, during, and after emergencies and disaster events. For the past 10 years, WEBT has presented the Harlem Emergency Preparedness Day event at City College, a forum that brings together emergency preparedness professionals, community organizations active in disasters, COADs, and community residents for demonstrations, presentations, and discussions around emergency preparedness, mitigation and recovery, working in collaboration with the Smart Community Initiative, that would be TSI, and their Streaming University project. May I please finish?
Yes, please wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you. WEBT has developed a 24/7 streaming platform for community content integrated with radio and emergency alerts, training programs for the public, and real-time emergency response systems. WEBT empowers residents not just to consume information, but to control the emergency platforms and restoring connectivity to communities. It is our heart. We are trying to bring WEBT. We are proud of what we created, and we ask for the master plan to be reinstated.
Thank you, and thank you. I know you were trying to speed. I have your written testimony here. Thank you so much for testifying. The last panelist. Just make sure the light is on.
Good afternoon now.
Is it on? Can you just touch the button there? Thank you.
Thank you.
How are
Good
you?
afternoon, Chair Gutierrez, and members of the committee. My name is Jose Luis Rodriguez, and I serve as Executive Director of the Caribbean Preparedness and Response, Inc., CPR. CPR is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to resilience and digital participation for Caribbean and Latino communities, both here in New York City and across the broader region, including other parts of the state. Puerto Rico, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania are also parts that we service. Since our inception, responding to emergencies, what a coincidence, in the Caribbean, our mission has focused on the role of communications and connectivity in disaster preparedness and recovery involving diaspora communities. Today, we're leading efforts to expand access to broadband in under-resourced communities through satellite-based solutions, digital navigation programs, digital community centers, youth-centered digital learning initiative, and workforce development. Among others, with the goal of continuing operating and growing as a not-for-profit internet provider for our communities. We believe that any legislative effort to bolster access to broadband is not only noble, but essential. These bills reflect a shared understanding that connectivity is a lifeline for education, employment, health, and civic participation. We support these bills. However, I want to raise an important gap. The city's digital equity framework does not reference the state digital equity plan, nor does the current Internet Master Plan meaningfully integrate digital equity as a guiding principle. We urge the Council to ensure future versions for both plans center this concept more explicitly and coordinate across all levels of government. Finally, with regard to Intro 1122, we believe this bill is critical. A comprehensive and regularly updated broadband expansion plan, including the use of alternative technologies as defined by the state, such as unlicensed fixed wireless, low Earth orbit, LEO satellite services, paired with an advisory board, it is exactly the kind of strategic infrastructure we need. CPR will be honored to support this effort in any capacity that might be helpful. Additionally, city should include provisions to incentivize and support alternative internet service providers like CPR as part of the broadband expansion.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I do have some questions, but I think maybe if it's okay if we have your contact information. I know, Odette, I just want to touch base with you, and I want to touch base with you just because we do have another hearing. So I thank you for your testimony, and I'll email with questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for testifying and sticking around.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. We have, this is our last in-person? Okay, our last in-person panel, I'd like to call up, I believe this is Julie Martin, Otalora, and Sharon Brown.
Hi, how are you? So they call me, so well, I might as well. Okay.
Thank you. You all can start. Whoever can start can go ahead. Just make sure the button is on. It's a red light. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bernardo Talora. I come here to talk about the 5G tower that is already installed on Juno Street in front of an historic elementary school, PS 144, and I want to say what I don't like about it. I wrote it last night, but excuse my English.
That's okay. This is your testimony that you're submitting, though, right?
And then you can ask me a question, and I will give you my point of view.
You got it.
The argument that the community needs this tower because there is a gap in service is baseless. People do not need the free internet access. They all have it. They never ask for it. PS 144 does not have any need for it. They are fully equipped. And so, contrary to what was said, there was no tall building, because this was an argument of theirs, that there was a tall building with more people on the street. Who is this tower going to help? And I ask the birds. It's nothing else, it's flat. The siting of the tower does not take into account the risk young children of PS 144 will be exposed to daily. I want to stress that there is a sidewalk, and after the sidewalk, the distance from me to you, and this is a playground for the kindergarteners who go there every day to breathe a ball of fresh air, and they will be under the umbrella of electromagnetic wave year-round and through their scholarity, and this is not good. since it is also a charging station, it will attract people who do not belong around an elementary school. A school should be a place kept free of any bad influences, okay? The company that is behind this 5G tower is not going to tell you about the health risk they cause. Cancer to cite only one, and this is documented. But when they refer to, when this company talk about, they always talk about past studies. We have more recent studies that say that this is really a health hazard. And the reason why I'm so vocal about that, all of my life, I help children build their own health. I was happy to see a student of mine there. I taught physical education all of my life in French. That's the reason for my.
Thank you. We need you to wrap up. Are you?
Yeah, okay. I know I need to wrap up, but I don't have a stopwatch.
I think we have your written testimony, sir.
Okay. So,
okay. I'm sorry. We need to move on. Thank you.
Would you want a 5G tower to be installed by your children's school? I doubt it. No one is in our community needs this tower. Children do not need it. The tower must go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you.
Is
Next
it working?
panelist.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. My name is Julie Martin. I'm a lifelong New Yorker and have been volunteering with a grassroots group called New Yorkers for Wired Tech. As the name implies, we believe wired technology is superior to wireless for health, privacy, and for speed. So I'm appreciative that these bills are trying to bring diversify New Yorkers' options and focusing in on cable franchises as well. But there is a major asset that has fallen into the memory hole. In the 2000s in New York, it was Verizon which took up the task of transforming our copper phone lines to fiber optic. They obtained many concessions and the ability to charge extra fees on their regular phone customers for years in order to do so. And yet what we ended up with is a partially built out system which basically became the backhaul for their private cell phone services. I need to thank Bruce Kushnick and the Irregulators, a group of technology and consumer advocates, for shining a light on this period of history. I will admit I was attached to my old copper landline. It was the only thing that worked during 9/11 and during Sandy, while everyone else was huddling around Wi-Fi hotspots. But I was one of the lucky ones who got fiber to the premises, especially lucky as I had heard from other New Yorkers that they were being forced to go directly to wireless. So this is where the true digital inequity lies. Those neighborhoods that did not get fiber to the premises, but only to the corners, are the ones that are not getting proper service today. And so if we could focus on having that last mile to the premises finished, then I think a lot would be accomplished. If Verizon cannot do it or will not do it, then let a smaller local company finish the job. I think this is one of the most important and meaningful tasks before our tech officials today. And there is still that question of the infrastructure that Verizon did build out. Since it was built with Title II public utility status, does it not belong to the public? I hope that these bills, especially 1122, can get to the bottom of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Our last panelist, Sharon.
Hello, my name is Sharon Brown. Before I begin, remember Israel, release the hostages, let Yahweh's people go. Defend Israel. Okay, we need the internet access for all New Yorkers on cell phones in homes. People use it for searching for housing, filling out applications, going to school online, working jobs online. That takes up a considerable amount of time. So they need to connect with the community, attend hearings such as this via the internet. And they need, some people need unlimited internet access for some of these things. There should be covered internet kiosks or rain-resistant, weather-resistant kiosks throughout the city that people can use when their devices, the batteries die, so that they can use internet, they can make calls if there's some kind of emergency. We need public phones back with internet and charging stations and kiosks everywhere so people won't be stranded. We need to make sure that the internet is available for everyone, students, people taking tests, people applying for college, different things like that. The children really need the internet, and we need to make sure that it's safe for the children, but they do need the internet. And also, phones should not be taken away from children in school because of all of the sensitive things that occur at school, shootings, different things like that. They need to have access to their phone and the internet when they are in class. When there are things, they're being bullied or any kind of thing is going on in school, they need access to their phone and internet. It should be something where all students should have access to the internet on their phone so that if something occurs in school, they can reach their parents, the police, or someone that they can trust. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for this panel. Thank you for waiting. Sorry. We're now going to move on to the virtual panel. Did we miss anybody that want? Sir, I'm so sorry. I'm talking about new panelists. You already testified.
Thank you.
Do you want me to say this? No. Okay, we're going to move on to Zoom panel. First panel is, Clayton Banks, Joseph Dumanov, Stanley Chan, and Stephanie Robinson.
Hi, shall I go first? This is Clayton Banks.
Yes, you can start.
Well, first of all, good afternoon. It's a nice morning. Good afternoon, Chair Gutierrez and distinguished members of the Committee on Technology. And I got to say hi to Holden and Irene. My name is Clayton Banks, and I am the CEO of Silicon Harlem, a community-driven company dedicated to advancing digital equity and broadband access for all. I am here in strong support for the Bill 1122 and the package of all the bills that are aimed at closing the digital divide and expanding broadband access to every home in New York City. I want to express my deepest thanks to Councilmember Gutierrez for her leadership on this critical issue and her commitment to ensuring that no New Yorker is left behind in this digital age. Too many New Yorkers still do not have access to reliable, affordable internet. This digital divide has held our communities back, and we must change that. Intro 1122 is a pivotal step forward in this fight. This bill would task developing a comprehensive plan to expand broadband access to all homes in the city. One of the most crucial aspects of this bill is the creation of an Internet Advisory Board, which will involve key stakeholders from diverse sectors, including technology experts, community organizations, and residents. This advisory board will play a vital role in refining the broadband expansion plan and ensuring that it meets the needs of every community. We cannot have a one-size-fits-all solution. The challenges faced by communities require targeted solutions that prioritize the needs of the residents who have been historically underserved. In conclusion, I want to reiterate that broadband access is not just about providing internet, it's about providing opportunity. It's about ensuring that every New Yorker, regardless of where they live or where their income is, has equal access to the opportunities of the digital age. Thank you for your time, for your leadership, and certainly I look forward to working with all of you to make this vision a reality and to create a more connected, equitable New York City. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clayton. Good to see you. Joseph?
Starting time.
Hello, yes. The video is turned off here. Can you turn the video on?
Joseph, we're having difficulty hearing you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, barely, but yes, we can hear you. You can get started.
Okay, let me just give you a little bit of my background. I'm an IBEW, Electronics and Communications Engineer. I got my licensing from out of IBEW 1430 out of Larchmont back in the 70s. I went to RCA Institute and Sarnoff Laboratories to work on communications and electronic systems. Okay, that was really out of my career. I had a long, extensive career in technology, and 25 years ago, because of a cancer in my family, I got into the field of medical mycology. I got my, did 8 years of medical schooling, nationally, internationally. And with the advent of
Joseph, I'm sorry, can you just speak a little bit louder?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
With the advent, I got into the field of clinical molecular biology, which is about causation. Everything is about causation, and here's the big challenge that everybody has. You're reading things on the internet that are out of context. They're being misinterpreted, okay? And the research is not fully integrated for their claims. I'm going to share one other thing with you. I'm a peer review associate editor with Elsevier. I've reviewed over 200 manuscripts pre-publication in oncology, toxicology, immunology. Everything works on a molecular level. And what you're seeing is the studies that you're reading and the reports of these building bio people that just showed up overnight, they actually imitated my work about 15 years ago or so. I look at these papers and I say to myself, they're not showing you any of the real mechanisms of causation. I know what the mechanisms of causations are. So about 18 years ago, I started doing clinical environmental studies for EMF, EMR, RF. And what does that mean? My studies are based upon the clinical indicators that my clients and patients are discussing. They're talking to me, they're feeling this, they're feeling that. And yes, I have seen many cancers. I've seen malformed births. I understand exactly how this works. I have a paper that's almost done. It's going to be quite revolutionary. But going back, the point I want to make is there's a lot of unnecessary fear. Yes,
Joseph, I'm sorry. Can you wrap up? Your time is up. Can you wrap up? Your time is up.
The point is, the thing is, it's not as serious as it looks. It's on a case-by-case basis, okay? It's just that I don't want to. I hate to see all this alarmist, and people need to, really understand that there's much more to it. Whenever you read anything, look at who are those people. What are their
Thank you. Can you please submit your testimony via email if you haven't done so already? That way we can read it.
Well, I'd be glad to, contribute to your efforts. It's very.
Thank you, Joseph. I'm sorry.
I would even appear.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next panelist, Stanley Chan, followed by Stephanie Robinson, please.
Starting time.
Okay. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. So I want to say thank you to the committee for having a chance to see and learn more about the mission to address digital equity. And I think it's an important mission, and I agree with it. So my name is Stanley Chan. I'm a community member, a homeowner, and most importantly, a father in Forest Hills, Queens. And the reason why I'm here is I want to speak about the same tower that went up on Juneau Street, right outside of PS 144. Can I share my screen? Because I have a photo, just to illustrate my point. Is that okay?
I don't think that we can share screens at, I don't think we can.
Okay, so essentially this tower, it went up last Thursday, and there was feedback from the community, and most people are deeply unhappy about it. And we feel as if OTI did not, take our input into consideration. So if the mission is to serve digital, equity, Forest Hills is lucky to be an affluent community, and I don't believe that it's a place where this tower is best placed. If there's only 200 of them, I feel like it's better, placed somewhere else. And people are unhappy when it's placed outside of their homes. This is a school with 830 children. There's 830 families, some of them as young as three years of age. And we don't know what the health effects of 5G are. I can't say that I do, but it's not something that we know conclusively. So even if we were to be placed maybe 200 feet down a block, that'd be a better location. because this is a place where it's right outside the main entrance of the school. There's hundreds of kids which walk past. It's actually a place where buses will drop kids off. And I don't understand how OTI made the choice to place the tower in this particular place. I don't think it serves the community. We're not a place that is suffering from digital equity. And it literally is just physically in a place that is obstructing students and parents who are walking past the school, not to mention health concerns. So how does OTI do this? So I think the council member that spoke from Brooklyn earlier perfectly captures how we feel about this tower. We feel as if there was no chance for the community to give feedback on this tower being placed there. And is there any way we can maybe even move it down a block or somewhere else where it can be needed more? That's what I wanted to say, and I thank you for having the chance to express myself.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you so much. Our next panelist is Stephanie Robinson, followed by Tracy Appleton.
You may begin.
Hi, I represent Human IT, a leading digital equity practitioner focused on expanding access to devices, digital skills training, and affordable broadband access. And I'm here today because I think with the right supportive policies, I believe we can significantly bolster programming and outreach efforts to New Yorkers still stuck on the wrong side of the digital divide. Human IT fully supports intros 198, 481, 486, and 1122 because they directly align with our mission to connect low-income New Yorkers to affordable internet devices and digital skills. Essentially, we know that our programs work, right? When we implement them, 83% of students see an improvement in academic achievement, 57% are now able to access social services, 47% are able to better manage their healthcare and utilize telehealth services, and 1/3 end up applying for new jobs. And I think with the city backing work like this, we're confident we can scale these positive results across all boroughs. Human IT stands ready to participate in the design, development, and rollout of city initiatives related to digital equity. This is a pressing issue in the city, especially as new developments like the rapidly heightening presence of AI in everyday life continue to deepen the existing digital skills gap. But it is a problem we can solve. So thank you for your attention to the matter. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Next, we have Tracy Appleton, followed by Christopher Leon Johnson, and finally, Geraldine Rodriguez.
You may begin.
Thank you so much to the committee for your time. Thank you, Chairperson Gutierrez. My name is Tracy Appleton. I just want to echo what Mr. Chan said. I believe he captured it perfectly about how the community feels. Mr. Ressler is my representative, and I really appreciate him speaking out. We live at 54 Norman Avenue. My husband, Ari Honig, is here as well. Outside of our window, they've built one of these 5G towers. To be more precise, outside my daughter's window, who's 12 going on 13. The tower is supposedly 10 feet away. It sure doesn't look it. It has a sticker on it that says, don't come in within 7 feet of this. And that's for people who work at it for an hour, for a few minutes. She lives in that room. And I fully believe that if you show these systems to be healthy or to be okay for people, or there were studies done, I would have no problem. But as was mentioned before, the FCC these very rules that are being applied now were up for debate in 2019, and there's a case, I'll read 9F4 893, that's Environmental Health Trust v. FCC. That's the case that was referred to before, where the FCC was told in 2021 to update their rules, and they have done nothing in the last 4 years. Chairman Gutierrez, you started this discussion about how angry you were that you had to wait 2 or 3 years for something to change. They haven't done anything in 4 years. So we have regulations that were based on science 20 years ago. They don't know what these towers do, and one of them is right outside my daughter's window. And as Mr. Chan said, if they'd spoken to us, if you look from our corner, you go one corner over, there's a building that is only a first-floor building. There's nothing above it. This tower is right outside my daughter's window, and directly outside. I don't think there was any thought to where it was put. I'm not saying let's tear down this whole system. I'm saying let's put these things in places where we're not putting people at risk. I do want everyone to have utilities. I do think that that's important, but it shouldn't be run over people who are innocent and have no chance to defend themselves.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. we have Christopher Leon Johnson, followed by Geraldine Rodriguez, and the final panelist, one name only, Ari.
You may begin.
Christopher,
Hello?
yes, please start.
Yeah, hello. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I'm on a train. I just got the train, so I'm walking right now. All right, so thank you for having us here. I just got the train. These trains are horrible. They need to have Wi-Fi on these. I'm on the 4 train right now. I'm calling for Wi-Fi everywhere. We need Wi-Fi on these damn trains, man. I don't know my language, but we need internet access on these trains, man. I'm on like Broadway, like the train right now. Hello?
Yeah, Christopher, we can hear you, but you're shouting. You're shouting.
We need internet access on these trains, all the trains, because if we had this on these trains, I would not have to go on this right now. I could just be on a train heading to Broadway, the 42nd Broadway, for the Board of Elections, and just talk to you right now, just on the train. We need to have this. Like I said, shout out to everybody out there that advocated in support for these bills and these regulations like that. We need this. We need this for the poor. We need this for people like me that are broke. People that are broke, man. Do it for the broke people.
Thank you.
Do it for the broke people, please.
Thank you.
But yeah, today is we need internet access for all. So yeah, we need internet access. Like I said, we're escaping on the train right now. Like, come on, man. So like, we need to make this happen.
Thank you.
Make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you. Next panelist, Geraldine Rodriguez.
You may begin.
Geraldine?
You may begin.
Okay, great. I was waiting. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Gutierrez and members of the Technology Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Geraldine Rodriguez, the CEO and co-founder at the Knowledge House. We are a nonprofit with proud roots in the South Bronx who deliver tech workforce development programs throughout New York City, Newark, Atlanta, LA, and Washington, D.C. Our mission is to empower and sustain a talent pipeline of technologists and digital leaders who will uplift their communities. 41% of households with incomes below $30K per year don't own a computer, and 43% are without broadband access. Historic underrepresentation in STEM workforce continues to persist, with only 11% of Blacks and 9% of Hispanic workers in STEM roles, and we work to change that. Having impacted over 2,500 students through fellowships, the Knowledge House is committed to changing the career trajectory of young men and women across New York City and breaking the cycle of poverty by providing high-paying fellowships for students in the tech space. We operate 3 programs: the Innovation Fellowship, focused on job training in data science, web development, and cybersecurity, which ends in certification, job placements. And we also offer our high school program, the Kareem Carbush Fellowship, which trains high school students in foundational coding and design. And we help them explore STEM careers and provide college prep or opportunities for industry-facing internships. And our newest program, Digital Literacy, helps any New Yorker, regardless of their age or background, develop basic digital literacy skills and provide employable tech knowledge, which helps participants understand how to use AI responsibly. Our students have an average of 20K in individual income, which then skyrockets to 76K after taking our program. Affordable internet connection is a critical piece of our work. We are so grateful to the council member Gutierrez, Juan, Holden, Menin, Ressler, and Brewer for championing legislation being heard today to enhance connectivity opportunities for low-income New Yorkers and ensure there is transparency around such opportunities. We would specifically like to uplift the following legislation: Intro 1122 and 486, which would provide a roadmap to equitable internet across New York City, and urge DOE to provide necessary information on low-cost internet options to families. This year, the Knowledge House is requesting first-time funding from the Speaker's Initiative, College. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geraldine. You can submit your testimony online if there's a lot left. Our final panelist, Ari.
You may begin.
Yes, hello. My name is Ari Honig. I'm sorry for that I missed the last name there. I am a home owner in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and And several months ago, without any warning or information, a 5G tower was constructed on the corner right outside of my house. This unit is 7 feet from my property line. It's 12 feet from the window of a bedroom. And this is also the bedroom where my daughter sleeps. After it was constructed, I noticed a small yellow sign on the box, which is the unit. And I photographed it and zoomed way in, and I could read this message. This message says, it's a warning sign, a yellow caution sign. It says, keep back 7 feet from this antenna, FCC RF, which stands for radio frequency. Public exposure limits may be exceeded within this distance. Okay, this is, again, 12 feet from the window. There is no reason why this unit should be so close to residential buildings. I get that everybody in the city needs access to broadband. I get that the city needs revenue and needs to rent out space. But this is a health concern. There are studies that are showing that 3 and 4G do increase risk of cancer, and that children are especially susceptible to that. There are no studies or no accurate studies with 5G. We can't rely on that. We are essentially the test here, and I don't want to be the test, and I don't want my kids to be the test. We already had very, very good coverage with broadband and also 4G in this neighborhood before this tower. It was excellent. It's a quite affluent neighborhood, in fact. It's not needed in this area. It's needed somewhere else, and it shouldn't be so close. And I just want to end this with, to be able to show the panel here the view from my window so that you can actually see it for yourselves. That's the tower, and this is the box.
We see it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you for testifying. Thank you so much. Okay, if we have inadvertently missed anyone who has registered to testify today and has yet to have been called, please use the Zoom hand function and you'll be called in that order that your hand was raised. Okay, no hands. I want to thank everyone for your testimonies today. The hearing is now adjourned. Thank you.